Good afternoon. Welcome to the New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Children and Youth, along with Mental Health and Substance Use and Oversight Investigation. Please silence all cell phone electronic devices. Moving forward, no one is to approach the dais. Chairs, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon. I'm Councilmember Althea Stevens, Chair of New York City Council Committee on Children and Youth. I would like to thank Chair Caban and Chair Krishnan for joining this important oversight on the effects of social media and screen time on youth mental health. We will also be hearing the following legislation, Intro 450, sponsored by myself, which prohibits social media companies from allowing youth to use social media for more than 1 hour per day, unless waived by a parent or guardian. Additionally, social media companies would be prohibited from promoting targeted advertisement or content to youth. Intro 451, also sponsored by myself, will require DYCD in consultation with DOHMH to report on the effects that social media has on mental health for youth. Intro 660, sponsored by Deputy Speaker Williams, will require DYCD in collaboration with the Director of the Mayor's Office for Neighborhood Safety to study in-person altercations among individuals under 24 years of age who attend program funded by DYCD. Intro 801, sponsored by myself, will require DYCD to include within its summer youth employment program an apprenticeship, internship, and credit-bearing opportunities for summer youth in the childhood and early childhood education sectors. Today's hearing comes at a time when there is a growing concern, both nationally and here in New York City, about the well-being of our young people. Data from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene and the U.S. Surgeon General points to the troubling rise in anxiety, depression, and feelings of hopelessness among youth over the past decade. At the time, social media use has become normal, nearly universal among teenagers, and increasingly common among young children. The research began as suggesting a clear association between social media usage and negative mental health outcomes. When it comes to factors like cyberbullying, social compromise, and sleep deprivation. At the same time, it is important to acknowledge that this relationship is complex. The evidence does not establish caution, and many young people report that social media also provides meaningful benefits, connections to community, and opportunity for self-expression. The complexities should guide our approach. The goal of today's hearing is to better understand the addictive patterns and to assess how the city can respond in a way that thoughtfully, evidence-based, and grounded in real experience of young people. New York City has already taken a number of steps in this space, from the launch of Teen Space to the expansion of school-based mental health services to the development of community-based interventions like EASE, and the city has made meaningful investments in youth mental health. At the time, we must examine how effective those programs are reaching young people, where gaps remain, and how we can strengthen coordination across agencies. We are also considering several pieces of legislation today that seeks to address different aspects of this issue, ranging from restricting social media use among youth to improve relevant data and reporting on social media impact. Those proposals raise important questions about the implementation, enforcement, privacy, and effectiveness, and today's hearing is an opportunity to explore those questions in depth. Ultimately, our responsibility is to ensure that New York City is doing everything it can to support mental health and the well-being of its young people. This means investing in digital literacy, expanding access to mental health supports, and guiding family and caregivers to promote safe and responsible use of digital platforms. I look forward to hearing from agency partners and stakeholders today and to working collaboratively to identify solutions that both partially and affects impact. I would like to thank our staff, our senior policy analyst, Elizabeth Arts, our senior committee counsel, Rie Ogasawar, for their hard work in preparing for this hearing, our entire team back at the district office, District 16 in Greer Mayhew. Now I'll turn it over to Caban for her opening statement.
Thank you, Chair. I've been waiting to co-chair with you.
I know, this is our first hearing together. And with Krishna, we haven't had a joint hearing in 4 years.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Councilmember Tiffany Caban, Chair of the New York City Council's Committee on Mental Health and Substance Use. I want to thank Chair Stevens and Chair Krishnan, as well as everybody joining us today, the administration, researchers, clinicians, advocates, educators, young people, after school, and families who are here to help us to better understand the rapidly evolving relationship between social media use and youth mental health in New York City. And it's no secret that the landscape young people are growing up in is fundamentally different than it was even a decade ago. Social media is no longer just a tool for connection. It's an environment where identity is shaped, where relationships are formed and fractured, and where attention itself has become a commodity. And while that environment can offer meaningful opportunities for connection and expression, we also must be honest about its harms, particularly for young people, and those harms are not evenly distributed. Black and Latino youth, LGBTQIA+ youth, immigrant youth, youth with disabilities, and young people experiencing housing instability or poverty often face disproportionate exposure to cyberbullying, to targeted harassment, exploitation, and identity-based stress online. And for many, social media is not simply a space of comparison or distraction. It's a space where they are actively surveilled, marginalized, or attacked. And these experiences have measurable consequences for anxiety, for depression, for self-esteem, and a sense of safety. And at the same time, youth who are already carrying the weight of structural inequities offline are often the most dependent on digital spaces for social connection, for affirmation, and survival. And that tension between harm and necessity has to shape how we think about policy responses. And it's clear that the mental health impacts of social media use are real. Clinical research increasingly points to the association between heavy and compulsive use of social platforms and symptoms consistent with addiction. Clinicians are reporting increased sleep disruption linked to late-night device use, with downstream effects on mood disorders, academic performance, and physical health. And the CDC has already documented that most adolescents are not meeting recommended sleep thresholds, and social media use is a contributing factor. And the thing I will continue to say about sleep thresholds is that it is incredibly dangerous to be sleep deprived, and the effects on your brain can't be reversed. We also have to confront how rapidly the information ecosystem itself is changing. Misinformation and disinformation circulate at scale, often amplified by systems optimized for engagement rather than accuracy. And with the rise of AI-generated content, we are entering a new phase where the line between authentic and synthetic material is increasingly blurred. I mean, sometimes I don't know the difference.
Because we all.
I know, yeah, maybe. And at the same time, it would be irresponsible to treat social media as solely a source of harm, because for many young people, especially those who are isolated due to geography, disability, family rejection, and other circumstances, these platforms provide lifelines of connection. Queer youth, for example, often find affirming communities online that are unavailable in their immediate environments. Immigrant youth and English language learners use digital spaces to maintain cultural ties and access information in their own languages. And across movements for racial justice, climate action, labor organizing, social media has been a powerful tool for civic engagement and collective action. So ultimately, this hearing is about clarity and responsibility, clarity about what the evidence tells us, and responsibility to act on it without minimizing harm or overstating certainty where the science is still emerging. Our young people are navigating a digital environment that is powerful, it's persuasive, and it's persistent. And they deserve policies that reflect that reality in full, its harms, its benefits, and the profound inequities in how those impacts are experienced. So I look forward to the testimony today, to working together to ensure that our response is grounded in public health, equity, and the lived experiences of the youth that we serve. So thank you, and I'll turn the mic back to Chair Stevens.
Thank you, Chair Caban. I would like to also recognize Councilmember Hickerson, De La Rosa, Minority Leader Carr, and Ariella on Zoom. I will turn it over to Chair Krishnan.
Thank you so much, Chair Stevens. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Councilmember Shekhar Krishnan, Chair of the Committee on Oversight and Investigations. I want to thank Councilmember Althea Stevens, Chair of the Committee on Children and Youth, and Councilmember Tiffany Caban, Chair of the Committee on Mental Health and Substance Use, for co-chairing our first time co-chairing a hearing together and for their unwavering leadership on this issue. I'd also like to thank the representatives from the administration, members of the public, and my council colleagues who have joined us here today. We are here today to examine the effects of social media and screen time on our young people's mental health. Our current market is unchecked and unregulated, leaving social media companies able and eager to keep our youth on social media for longer periods of time by pushing content that forces their attention. Increasingly, that content is violent news, dangerous trends, and fueling feelings of isolation and anxiety with never-ending scrolling and read receipts. I'd like to show you today exactly what our young people are seeing on social media every day.
Drones.
And I started working out. A girl with visible abs just asked me for my routine. Celebrate the small victories. Check out the link below to learn more about TrimmerX and their personalized weight.
What we just saw is 100% caused by the greed of social media companies like Instagram, X, TikTok, and Snapchat. Our kids are being fed dangerous trends, encouraging them to choke themselves until they black out, criticize their friends and highlight their insecurities, and participate in games that manipulate them into self-harm and suicide. The endless scroll and need to go viral are feeding our children's insecurities, encouraging bullying, and telling them that in order to make friends, they need to risk their lives. The CEOs that had front row seats at Donald Trump's inauguration are given unchecked power to buy our children's attention spans, sell them dangerous trends from Subway serving to thigh gaps, and profit from an unchecked and unregulated market. Social psychologists like Jonathan Haidt have long sounded the alarm on the collapse of child and adolescent mental health across the globe as a result of the shift from play and independence to screens and social media. Today's hearing will examine how we are losing the power struggle at a critical moment in our digital era. The social media crisis we face is the crisis of this era, of this generation of youth. And today, we will learn, is New York City prepared to regulate these unchecked markets for our youth? How can we keep our children safe from harmful and aggressive algorithms? We must take back our power from these billion-dollar social media companies and protect our youth. The city now has taken a critical step by suing 4 companies: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat. And the lawsuit alleges that the companies deliberately designed, marketed, and distributed their platforms to maximize engagement among children. They use algorithms to drive addiction, endless scrolls, strategically timed notifications, snap streaks, and read notifications that are all exploit adolescent psychology. That lawsuit, just like with Big Tobacco, talks about social media and its harms being a public nuisance. But we must do more. Governments around the world are taking action. In December, Australia instituted a social media ban for children under the age of 16. Last month, the Indonesian government announced that they are doing the same. Sweden is also pursuing similar regulations, telling the EU that we are losing an entire generation and we need to move forward fast. We must find a way to regulate these profit-driven billion-dollar social media companies. We need to protect young people from the harm of excessive screen time and social media use that they have far too easy access to, literally every single hour of the day. Before I conclude, I would like to thank the following council staff for their work on this hearing. From our Oversight and Investigations Committee staff, Nicole Kata, Erica Cohen, Alex Yablon, and Owen Katowski. And from my team, Chanel Martinez, Hunter De Vinagracia, and Victoria Opperman. And thank you to everyone across the 3 committees that is working hard to make this hearing run smoothly and to be a success. I will now turn it over to my co-chair, Councilmember Stevens. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Krishnan. Lastly, our Deputy Speaker, Natasha Williams, was unable to join us, but she does have a bill that's being heard today, and I will read a statement from her. Thank you to the chairs for hearing this bill. So she's saying thank you to me. I'll take it. Across our communities, we are seeing conflict involving young people take shape in new ways, often beginning online before escalating into in-person harm. Introduction 660 takes an important step by asking the Department of Youth and Community Development, in coordination with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety, to better understand how those incidents develop and how the city can respond more effectively. I also want to acknowledge that many have raised concerns about this bill, particularly around the issue of surveillance. Those concerns are valid, and I share many of them. The goal is to ensure that the city is better equipped to develop a thoughtful, community-centered response, and that will require meaningful amendments, which I fully support. This moment calls for us not to only study those patterns, but to begin building a more intentional strategy around prevention. This includes exploring how city agencies and partners, especially those within the crisis management system, can invest in a plan for online interpretation as part of the modern violence prevention approach. We know that much of today's conflict is happening in the digital space. Our response should reflect that reality by equipping trusted, credible messengers with the tools and support they need to engage early before situations escalate offline. While some communities and organizations are beginning to pilot this work, it must be expanded, properly resourced, and scaled to meet the need. This is about evolving our approach. It's about assuring our systems are aligned with how young people are actually interacting today, and positioning the city to intervene sooner, more effectively, and greater and consistent. We owe it to our young people and their families to be proactive, informed, and forward-thinking in how we can prevent harm, not just responding to it. That is all. So with that, I turn it over to the committee staff to swear in the administration and for them to provide testimony. Thank you. Oh, we've also been joined by Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Chair. We will now hear testimony from the administration. Before we begin, I will administer the affirmation. Panelists, please raise your right hand. I will read the affirmation once, then call on each of you individually to respond. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in front of this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, Chair Stevens, Chair Kaban, and Chair Krishnan, and members of the committees. I am Dr. George Petit, Executive Deputy Commissioner and Director of Community Services for the Division of Mental Hygiene at the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. I am joined today by Marnie Davidoff, Assistant Commissioner for Children, Youth, Families, and Intellectual Developmental Disabilities, and colleagues from the Department of Youth and Community Development. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. This is my second week on the job, having started at the Health Department just last week. I come to this hearing with more than 30 years of experience in public behavioral health as a community psychiatrist and a physician leader, with deep personal connections to the communities we serve. I previously served at this very agency as Associate Commissioner for the Division of Mental Hygiene from 2004 to 2007, and I am honored to return in this new capacity under Commissioner Dr. Alistair Martin. I'm also a father. Watching my own sons navigate a world shaped by social media has given me a ground-level view of what our data reflects, that the pressures on young people face today are real, relentless, and deserve our full attention as public health leaders and as a city. Adolescence is a pivotal period for developing the social and emotional habits that shape mental health and well-being. When children and youth have good mental health, they are empowered to realize their abilities, having fulfilling relationships, learn and work productively, and engage with their communities. Before I speak to what we currently know about the relationship between social media and mental health, I will first describe the Health Department's work to promote and protect youth's mental health broadly. We strive for a city where all children, youth, families, and communities have equitable access to the conditions, opportunities, resources, and care they need for good mental health. Beyond treating a young person's mental health needs, we must also holistically support them to help them achieve their goals and live fulfilling lives. We advance this vision by providing public health surveillance and insights, supporting a continuum of services, and providing technical assistance and guidance to our providers and communities. This includes behavioral health supports across the lifespan, from our perinatal mental health clinics to our programs supporting young adults with serious mental illness to live full, meaningful lives. As the local government unit for youth mental health services in the city, We play a pivotal role in understanding, shaping, and overseeing this landscape. Public health research and surveillance allows us to glean insights into the state of youth mental health in our city. Unfortunately, many youth in New York City are reporting symptoms associated with poor mental health. In an EpiData brief we published this month, approximately 35% of public high school students said they felt sad or hopeless for more than 2 weeks in the past 12 months. While we are encouraged that this is slightly lower than the 38% reported in 2021, we see troubling inequities among youth by race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, and gender identity. High school students who identify as female were more likely to have felt sad or hopeless than males, 45% to 26%. Latino youth were more likely than white youth to have felt sad or hopeless, 41% to 33%. LGBTQ youth were more likely to report feeling sad or hopeless compared to their non-LGBTQ youth, 49% to 31%. Another EpiData brief published in September reported that suicide-related behaviors have increased among New York City public high school students between 2013 and 2023. We are very concerned with this trend, along with the stark inequities by race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, and gender identity we again observed. In 2023, public high school students who identified as Black, Latino, or multi-race were more likely than white students to report suicidal ideation. 35% of public high school students who identified as gay or lesbian reported suicidal ideation in 2023, compared to 12% of heterosexual students. This is painful information to hear. These are our families, our children, and our lives. While this is difficult to share, it is critical to do so with the public, advocates, our government partners, and council so we can work on solutions together. That brings me to the wide range of mental health services that support the health departments provide for cities' children and youth. We work closely with the State Office of Mental Health, community-based organizations, and providers to administer a robust array of youth-focused mental health services across our city. The health department's programs cover crisis intervention, suicide prevention, school-based mental health clinics, care coordination, family support, and much more. We contract children's mobile crisis teams, home-based crisis intervention programs, and family-based crisis assessment and stabilization services. Our Caring Transitions program provides support to youth who have been hospitalized or seen at an emergency department for suicidal behavior within 24 hours and for up to 3 months following discharge. Repeat suicide attempts are greatest within 30 days following discharge, so this provides follow-up care during the most critical time frame. And of course, 988 is a resource for every New Yorker, including our youth and children. The health department also provides an array of non-clinical resources to assist youth and families in building community, emotional supports, skills, and connections to resource. Our Family and Youth Peer Support Program empowers and supports parents and caregivers, as well as children and youth experience social, emotional, developmental, substance use, or behavioral challenges. This network consists of partner organizations in each borough that provide an array of services such as emotional supports, assistance in navigating child-serving systems, information on mental health conditions and family rights, referrals to appropriate services and resources, skills development, and recreational activities. All services are free and available for direct access. We also have adolescent skill centers, which provide a range of strengths-based integrated services to address educational, vocational, and socio-emotional needs of youth with serious mental illness. Additionally, our technical assistance programs, such as Strong Families and Building Resilience in Youth, help community-based organizations build mental health awareness, counseling skills, and referral pathways. Paramount to the success of these programs is the ability to center youth voices. This marks the second year of our Youth Committee on Mental Health, where 23 young people between the ages of 15 and 24, representing all 5 boroughs, come together monthly to inform the programming, policies, and strategies of our youth mental health work. The subcommittees of this group include suicide prevention, crisis prevention and services for youth, and a social media's impact on mental health group. I'll now speak to what we currently know about the relationship between social media and youth mental health and the guidance we provide to help families and communities navigate it. Social media, as you have said, is increasingly shaping the lives of young people. There are some clear and observable ways in which the mental health of children and teenagers is impacted by social media. Some of these impacts show up in the data, while others show up in our everyday lives as parents, caregivers, and educators. It's important to recognize that social media may have some positive impacts, and we must ensure to preserve those effects. Among teens, 12% say social media has a positive impact on their mental health, and 4% said it had a negative impact on their mental health. The majority of teens, 58%, believe social media has both a positive and a negative impact on their mental health. At the same time, between 2013 and 2023, there was an increase from 27% to 35% of public high school students who reported feeling sad or hopeless. Teens who use social media several times a day or more than once an hour were significantly more likely to feel sad or hopeless compared with teens who did not use social media. In 2023, we released a special report on social media and youth mental health to publish the findings from a one-time deep dive we did into this topic. Following this analysis, we issued guidance for parents and caregivers and for leaders of youth-serving organizations to reduce the harm social media can pose on young people. It includes information to empower social media skills development, reducing exposure to harmful content, and advocating to make social media less harmful. As a city, we cannot limit our response to just education and guidance alone. The Health Department has called on social media platforms to implement stronger default protections for minors, including limits on algorithmic amplification of harmful content, robust age-appropriate design standards, and meaningful transparency in how content is curated for young users. We have also urged our federal and state partners to advance legislative frameworks that hold platforms accountable and invest in the research infrastructure needed to understand and address the long-term mental health impacts of social media on our kids. We are pleased New York State took steps on the Safe for Kids Act, and we are also supportive of efforts at the federal level, including the Kids Online Safety Act, which aims to strengthen protections and accountability for minors online. With that, I'll turn to Introduction 451, which relates to reporting on the effects that social media has on youth mental health. The Health Department appreciates the Council's interest in this important topic affecting young people, not only in the city but across the world. We think it is important to understand the effects of social media on youth, which we have begun doing through a biannual Youth Risk Behavior Survey. The YRBS provides us with the data we've used to inform our programming and creates a snapshot of the landscape around youth mental health more broadly. We would like to discuss this work with Council and how we can meet the goal of providing more information to the public that is actionable and rooted in behavioral health science. My colleagues from the Department of Youth and Community Development will speak to other pieces of legislation before the committee today. The Health Department is deeply committed to promoting youth mental health and assisting families in navigating these mental health challenges, including those associated with social media. I also want to thank our partners, providers who carry out this important and challenging work every single day. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you for that. At this time, we're going to pass it over to Chair Caban to start her line of questioning.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. I'm going to question just for a little bit and pass it back, because I know we have colleagues here that have questions as well. I was going to first ask what the most common impacts of social media addiction on users' physical and mental health are, but you did a nice job, I think, articulating that in your testimony that you just gave. So I'll follow up by asking if in recent years, we know that there are these studies that have shown that youth screen time is nearing or surpassing an average of 8 hours a day. So can you speak to the larger mental health and physical health impacts that such prolonged use of devices and social networking apps can have?
Yeah. Turn it over. You got the microphone?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Marnie Davidoff. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of the Bureau of Children, Youth, and Families and Developmental Disabilities at the Health Department. And what we have seen is that there is a correlation between length of time on social media and mental health outcomes, but also that research we're seeing suggests that potentially even more important than the amount of time on screens is how youth are using their time on screen. So what type of activities they are engaged in, and that whether those are more active or more passive activities really can have an impact on whether it is affecting their mental health. And
can you give an example? Like, can you bear out sort of like active versus passive?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So a more active, like goal-directed use, would be, participating in interest-based communities, right? If someone is very interested in, art or literature, whatever it is, sports, whatever they're, in being part of a community that has a similar interest, right? Even creating content, I know, which those of us who are not teens may have thoughts about, but, those have been associated with more positive mental health outcomes, whereas passive consumption, so scrolling through curated feeds, things that are going to induce social comparison, exposure to the idealized content, right, where, youth are comparing themselves to, fictionalized versions of others' lives, right? That is more consistently linked to depression, anxiety, body image, et cetera. So some of the harms we're hoping to avoid.
Thank you. And can you provide a clinical overview of the similarities and differences between social media addiction and substance-based addiction or substance use disorder?
Sorry about that. I'll get the hang of it.
There you
go. All right. So again, really important to be able to differentiate this. And I think, as a clinician, a behavioral health leader, I approach it, the topic through a lens of public health and the systems of care. And we do know that, these digital platforms that are deeply embedded in the lives of our children and shape how they communicate, form identity, experience the world. We know that there are some benefits, but we also do know that there are a whole bunch of behavioral aspects to this that are on a spectrum. I think it's important to think about that, right? So this goes all the way from, spectrum that it's problem use all the way to the potential of really causing, significant harm to mental health, their relationships and responsibilities, such as school and academic performance. So similar to the problem use of substances or other behaviors that cause harm, there are a number of factors that influence the development of problematic social media use and compulsive engagement, such as social environmental factors like loneliness, or life stressors like engaging in behavior to cope with something else. And while there is training out there for clinicians to treat this issue, widespread screening, referral to care, and systemic expertise is not yet readily available across the board. And addressing any behavioral any problematic behavior, including social media use, that might be detrimental ones.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Yeah.
In terms of it being not widely systemically available, just to put a finer point on it, is the contention that the reality of the medical field at this moment is that maybe practitioners don't have as much experience or training in the area of the topic of social media consumption.
Right. I don't necessarily think that the field is actually caught up with where we are, and I don't think that as a sector or as a sort of medical professional or professional set of disciplines have we been able to figure out where or how we're going to address this. Even from a perspective of diagnosis, there is no specific diagnosis that looks at problematic social media, even though there is talk about what that might look like down the road. So I think that that's a bit of an issue. But certainly, the American Academy of Pediatrics and others have recommended using the term problematic rather than addiction. I do think it's a little bit less stigmatizing, but it does describe sort of this, addictive-like behavior and functioning that might be impaired because of social media usage. And that could include everything from struggling to limit the use despite repeated attempts to try, or when media use displaces sleep or other health behaviors like exercise or eating, distracting from homework, or becoming excessive or compulsive. The departure from the teen's usual personality communication style, and as a parent of two young adults, I mean, they go through a phase where communication styles are really cramped by a whole bunch of issues, not necessarily just social media. So that surly, moody stuff happens no matter what. But showing less empathy, being socially withdrawn or not listening, which again I think is part and parcel of being an adolescent, experiencing irritability or distress when disconnected, and sort of the fatigue that might come along from sort of more problematic use. But again, I do want to sort of emphasize that there are some significant positive benefits to social media, and we can't lose sight of that. The majority of kids in New York City, 58%, said that social media did have a both positive and a negative impact, but we do know that the top responses when asked about how social media makes them feel, it makes them feel connected to their friends. It makes them, gives them a place where they can show their creativity, and it gives them a place for community. And we have to think about that in the context of really disconnected, disadvantaged, marginalized populations that otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to come together. And 52% find more accepted and supported. So it's important to really keep that in mind.
I have another clarifying question for you, because not a health expert, but when you talk about the use of the term problematic from a clinical standpoint, and again, I'm coming at this from being a little bit more fluent or familiar with the substance use part of this space, is that a term of art that is different than chaotic, right? Like we often talk about substance use disorder, chaotic substance use. Like, are there different definitions to that? Are they interchangeable? Like, what's?
I think what we're seeing in the literature is more of a tendency to talk about this as problematic behavior
Okay.
Versus using the term addiction, even though, again, there is some
Yeah.
convergence around some of the symptoms profiles that might exist between the two. But again, to conflate one with the other doesn't necessarily make as much sense in the context of this particular issue related to social media.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna move on to just sleep health. The CDC has found a majority of adolescents aren't getting the recommended 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night, and with heavy social media use identified as a key contributing factor. What data does the administration currently collect on sleep health among New York City youth, if any?
So I'll turn it over to the Assistant Commissioner in a second, but again, I super important. The reality is if you've got teenage kids, they rarely sleep. And I agree that, there may be an impact of social media, but there is a science to this, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I kind of caveat that.
Yeah, I hear
adolescents.
you. I hear you, and at the same time, just using like a personal reality or anecdote is like, I know that sometimes I'm losing an hour or two a night because I got myself caught in a doom scroll. And it is, as an adult who understands, still have trouble logging the off,
Yeah.
So yes, and,
Yes.
okay, go ahead.
Yes, there's a lot of yes ands in the world of social media and screen time, absolutely. So I'm happy to talk about what we collect and what we know so far. So the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, we refer to it as YRBS, so forgive me if I slip into acronyms. It's a CDC survey which is conducted on a biennial basis, so every 2 years, in New York City public high schools and middle schools. And our most recent survey does include questions on how much sleep youth are getting per night on average, and also where they sleep. And it defines sufficient sleep as 8 or more hours on an average school night. That's sort of their threshold. So we are going to continue to collect data on sleep through the YRBS, and also the survey also collects information on social media use. We last issued we call these EPI data briefs in 2018 that looked at the sleep adequacy of New York City children and adolescents. And what it found was that excessive screen time was correlated with inadequate sleep for children, but actually not for adolescents. We also have results.
Could you talk a little bit about why that is?
You know what? I think it's in part probably in part because there's so many factors that are disrupting adolescent sleep. Quite honestly, that it's probably a little bit harder to find a correlation just with social media.
I see.
We
Okay.
don't have data to prove that, but that's just kind of what we would speculate.
So a lot more contributing factors.
Yes, that would be our tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly.
It's harder to isolate.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
And then, we have some more recent data from 2021, same survey, the YRBS, and it showed that among youth who reported spending 3 or more hours per day on screen time, 77.1% did not get sufficient sleep, and again, using that 8 hours school night threshold. Interestingly, for youth who said they spent less, right, than 3 hours per day on screen time, it was 72% reported that they did not get sufficient sleep. So it wasn't a huge difference in percentages for the youth who reported this. So, we're going to continue to look at this issue. I think it's just as Dr. Petit said, there's a lot of factors with adolescents that are contributing to the inadequate sleep.
Great, thank you. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that we've been joined by Council Members Joseph and Council Member Riley. I'm going to ask a couple of more questions and then pass it back over to the chair and our other colleagues. So the DOHMH Special Report on Social Media's Impacts identifies disparities in both social media use and parental awareness across income levels. How are the agencies targeting resources for communities with the highest need?
Right. So I think that this has been part of our overall strategy, recognizing the critical importance that that education plays, quite honestly, for both the youth themselves and for parents and caregivers and other caring adults in youth's lives. So we have issued 2 guidance documents. One is aimed at parents and caregivers, and the other is aimed at youth serving community-based organizations to sort of help them help young people really navigate the world of social media in ways that are more health promoting rather than health harming. In addition to that, we have
Those are the actual resources.
Yes.
What I first want to know about how you're targeting who gets the resources.
Yeah, so they are publicly available. We've been putting them out through social media. We've also been actually recently in collaboration with our partners at DYCD to both present our findings, right, our data, to make sure that their staff and their contracted providers, so the community-based organizations that are serving youth, right, are aware of our findings, to understand what resources they're using and what resources they're needing from us so that we can, and we're working on this now, develop guidance docs or resources for them to reach the youth, right, who we want to be reaching. And so that's one critical way we're going to be using to ensure that we are, reaching communities we need to reach.
And I'm sure Chair Stevens will have more questions related to that. So you identify, you get some resources out there. How are the resources evaluated for effectiveness? Like what does the feedback loop look like?
Yeah. So I think that it is challenging with public health educative materials, right, to evaluate the impact, right? I do think that because we are, so I have a few thoughts on that. I think,
Are you doing survey? I mean, are you asking participants or organizations that you're going to research to like do surveys or give?
Right. Well,
yeah.
right. So I think that the YRBS that I was talking about before, does have questions on social media and social media use and its impact on young people, and that's one way that we can track over time what those trends are looking like. And again, will we be able to attribute it exactly to our resource guidance? No, but I think there's a variety of things we're doing, right, to try to influence behaviors. And then we also have a youth committee on mental health, which right has 23 young people ages 15 to 24 who advise us, right? And one of the subcommittees that we have formed with them is on social media and its impact on youth mental health. So they come from across the boroughs. It's a really amazing group of young people, and they keep us honest, right? They're telling us what youth are experiencing, what they're seeing, and what they think we should be paying attention to. So that's another really important feedback loop that we have.
Okay. And then my last question for now is just what's being done to scale the strategies across schools and community-based organizations?
Yeah, so I think, again, it's a great question because we need to reach scale, right? And I think that is exactly why we wanted to do some partnership with UICD, because of the reach that they do have into so many communities across New York City. We are also looking to see how so one of the things the committee is advising us on is how we can use our own social media accounts at the health department to reach New York City youth with this messaging.
Say, how many kids are on your followers
right.
list?
I hear you, but that's why we need them, right? That's why we need their advisement.
You need to employ some influencer. Like, can the government partner with influencers to get some of this information out? There's just some things
Yeah. We definitely appreciate your thoughts on it, because I think we need an all hands on deck effort.
No offense,
on this,
they ain't following y'all.
No, we know, and that's why we're saying to young people, how can we be more relevant, right? For sure, we get it, we know it, and appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chair Caban. Really appreciate that. And I was mumbling over here. I think Councilmember Riley has a bill on social media influencers, kind of helping with the promotion of government things. So it's definitely something we should be looking into as well, because it's true. They're not following any of us. I mean, they might be following me. I don't know. But to just jump into some of it, and just a follow-up question, and just even with your youth committee, mental health, you said it's about 23 young people that's on this. How often do you guys meet?
So they meet both with us and without us. They actually meet weekly. And when we created the committee, we're only in our second year. When we created it, we didn't envision them meeting that often, and they wanted to meet that often. So
Do they get stipends or anything for being a part of it?
They do get a stipend. It's a 9-month commitment. We have partners at CUNY who help us to support the young people. So when they meet without the health department, they are still meeting with our CUNY partners, right, to support them in their skills development and the projects that they're working on. And then we meet health department staff, we meet with them monthly as well, so.
And I know you said that there was a subcommittee on social media. What were some of the outcomes that the young people have come up with in those conversations? And I know, obviously, probably giving you critiques on your social media, because my advisory board does that all the time, which is why they created their own social media page, because they said mine was boring. So what are some of the outcomes that came out from you guys?
Yeah, so our focus this year with them has been on kind of what I was referencing earlier, how we can, knowing that our health department, that we're not really reaching, right, as many youth, how can we get this messaging out to young people? So what our hope is that we're working on some messaging that would be sort of designed by youth for youth, right, that can be pushed out on our accounts and hopefully other accounts as well, maybe cross-post, that accounts of youth do follow more regularly. So we're in the design phase of that right now, where we've been brainstorming ideas, we're trying to figure out how to make it current, but they're the ones driving the content. And we're basing it on, we walk them through our research, we walk them through our reports, we had them talk about our findings and what types of messages they thought were most important and most relevant for other young people to hear.
I'm going to jump into some questions around Teen Space. In November 2023, the city launched Teen Space, a free mental health support program for adolescents 13 to 17. Is this program still operational? If so, what are the gaps in access, particularly for young children under 13 who may not have qualified for Teen Space?
Thank you for the question. Teen Space is a demonstration project. It's a 3-year demonstration project, and it is still operational. And then the second part of your question is about for youth under 13, right? The program was designed for adolescents for a variety of reasons. The first is that the data were bearing out that adolescents were experiencing poor mental health outcomes, and we knew that we needed to fill a gap and really try to reach them in different ways. And we know developmentally, a virtual mental health service is sort of, it's well aligned with the developmental phase that adolescents are in and can be a little bit more challenging for younger kids. That said, we have an array of other programs that we support for kids of all ages, including school-age, younger kids, and that's starting from birth to, our youngest New Yorkers, right? We have our perinatal and early childhood mental health clinics. We have care coordination programs. We've got crisis services. We've got peer services. We've got a whole range of other services that are appropriate for. And
you said they have peer services. What are those services?
Yeah, we've got family and youth peer support services, where we have both family members who they themselves have supported a young person with a mental health need and have learned sort of how to navigate the mental health system and are there to provide peer support to other parents or caregivers who are going through that now. And then we have youth who are now a little bit older, right? They're young adults who, as young people, experienced mental health needs, received services, and they are there to provide peer support to other young people.
Where do families and young people access that at?
So we have alliances in every borough where there's a lead, and we have sort of subcontractors and have family and youth peer support that they can access, through the alliance, and they can guide them to where they can get services throughout their borough. Yeah. So it's citywide though.
And do those alliances partner with DYCD programming and things like that? Because there's a lot of young people who I'm sure could benefit from that, but don't know about this because I'm a council member. I didn't know about this.
Okay. We're happy to share more information, and we welcome partnership and getting word out about these services. They do have, we should look and see if some of their partnerships are with DYCD providers.
I mean, it often is. A lot of these programs are all overlapped in the same programs, but then they're not connected if we're not being intentional about it. And so I am positive that the list looks very similar, and they probably have at least one DYCD program, and so how are we then connecting it? And if we don't connect it, it just don't happen.
Yep.
So
appreciate your feedback on that, and yeah. we're happy to look at that.
How many young people have been served through this program since its launch?
You're referring back
Teen
to Teen
Space,
Space?
yes.
Yes. Hold on one moment. Oops. There we go. Sorry. Forgive me, I have the data and I just need a moment to locate it.
So you know while you're looking for it, I'm going to jump to DYCD to give you a couple of minutes to get it together because I have a couple questions for them. How does DYCD currently guide or regulate social media use within its contracted program? Specifically, are there standardized policies, requirements, including a provider's contract of work scope to social media uses, digital literacy, and youth online safety?
Good afternoon, Chair Stevens. I do want to start by saying that we thank the council for your efforts on this. I think we agree that the need to understand the true impact of social media on our young adults is one of the most important things that we can do right now. And I can't even imagine what's happening during a time of adolescence brain development, impulse control, and what something like doom scrolling does to that. Like, I think that longer term impacts that we'll find out, but we know sleep deprivation. Yeah, again, thank you. What I can get back to you on widespread what we've done. We do know that after the September school ban of social media and cell phones in schools, that we heard from providers that there was a positive impact. Some of those providers actually continued that practice into after-school hours. We haven't did a blanket across-the-board policy yet. We are speaking with providers. We are speaking internally. We want to ensure that we safeguard the trust of providers and the work that they're doing. So we are having discussions around what a potential policy may look like.
Okay. Cell phone ban, and you just mentioned it, has take place in schools. Since the cell phone ban has been implemented in schools, have providers reported any shifts? And I think you already talked about it. And has there been an increase in usage during program hours or impact on youth engagement? How has the URCD responded to these changes?
Again, we haven't seen any negative impacts from the ban. Again, providers are indicating that it's been positive at their program sites, young people being engaged. That's not a systematic viewpoint of it. That's some of the providers, the cohort that we've spoken to. And that cohort has also extended that practice into after school.
Well, how are they extending it? Because like in the schools, the schools are providing pouches and, securing the phones. Is that something that providers are also doing? I would love, and I mean, if you guys haven't done this, I would love to start thinking about what does it look like in programs, right? Because I think it is important for us to not have blanket stuff, but I think thinking how do we give providers guidance and support if needed.
Indeed, indeed.
I'm gonna come back. I'm not sure, did you get the data? Okay, so you're ready, all right, great. So I'm gonna come back to DOHMH, and my question was just like, how many young people have been served through the Teen Space since it launched?
So in the first 2 years of the program, we registered approximately 36,000 youth, and approximately 80% of registrants identified as BIPOC, which is something we're excited to see because one of our goals was ensuring that there was access to mental health care for BIPOC youth.
Okay. What trends or patterns have been identified among participants, including specific concerns or needs related to social media?
So I'll give you data from the second year, the most recent year of the program. Approximately 12% of users of the program selected social media as one of their presenting problems. So it actually wasn't one of the top 10 reasons that youth seek support from the service, but it is about 12%.
What are the top 5, if you don't mind me asking, if you
The
have it?
top 5, let me just get that for you. It varies depending on, year to year, but typically it has been, it's typically been somewhere around, usually depression, anxiety. Let's see, okay, for top year 2, anxiety was the top presenting problem. Youth can also select more than one. So when I say top, this is the most frequently selected. Okay, so anxiety, 1. Second was feeling down or depressed. Third was becoming my best self. Fourth was improving my relationships. And 5th was family conflict.
Thank you. What neighborhoods or council districts have seen the highest use of teen space?
So my data for today are really on what we refer to as the tree neighborhoods. So these are right. So the top neighborhoods among the tree neighborhoods that were receiving services in the second year of the program were Concourse or in Melrose in the Bronx. The second was Cypress Hills, East New York. The third was Ocean Hill, Brownsville. And then the fourth was Cypress Hills, a different zip code in Cypress Hills, East New York. Yeah.
Thank you. To what extent are program providers, including therapists, incorporated DOHMH developed guidance or research on social media use in these services? And we're talking about teen space. So basically we're asking what supports are you giving the providers around supporting, I guess, this 12% who are identifying some things around social media issues?
Yeah, so the therapists are all licensed licensed in New York State, mental health professionals, and they are capable of treating a broad array of mental health concerns around youth. So this includes any, anxiety, depression, identity challenges, or other challenges that, whether they're associated with social media or whether they're, due to other causes.
This is back to DYCD. What strategies is DYCD using to engage and reach youth and families regarding healthy social media use? How are those outreach efforts tailored to different communities?
Chair Stevens, on part of that, I'll get back to you to see what we've done systematically, but we have done training in the past for our providers around social media use, which included some guidance for them on how to monitor, utilize social media for their young people, young adults in their programs. We also, of course, push out on our social media channel as well to support programs and advertisement of what we do.
DOHMH's framework for action recommends the use of tech-free or device-limiting spaces in youth settings. Does DYCD provide guidance or recommendations to providers in the implementation of such practices? If so, what does this guidance entail?
Chair Stevens, I didn't catch that first part. Can you repeat it for me?
So DOHMH has a framework for action that recommends a tech-free space or device-limited space for youth in youth settings. Does DYCD provide guidance or recommendations to providers on the implementation of this practice?
We have provided guidance and recommendations, but let me get back to you to ensure that it's connected directly to the DOHMH approach.
Yeah, I would love for us to make sure, how I always feel, how are we all working together? And what does collaboration look like, and not reinventing the wheel when we have folks already doing the work. So we'd love to make sure that we're strengthening that connection. In 2025, the Mayor's Office of Community Mental Health, in partnership with the community-based organizations and DYCD, co-developed an early adolescent skills for emotion, ERACE, a curriculum equipped non-clinical staff and youth caregivers with tools to support youth experiencing stress, anxiety, and depression. How does DYCD integrate the EASE program curriculum into programming, and which programs or sites are currently implementing it?
Thank you, Chair Stevens. So DYCD was pleased to partner with the Mayor's Office of Community Mental Health and the new school to pilot the Early Adolescent Skills for Emotions, EASE model. We did it at 15 community centers across the city. Through the effort, approximately 40 staff were trained to deliver culturally responsive, non-clinical mental health skill building, and we reached roughly 200 participants and their family members. The focus was on equipping staff and caregivers with practical tools to support youth experiencing stress, anxiety, and depression. The programs that participated have continued to embed ease into their day-to-day practice. Staff are incorporating core concepts such as understanding big feelings, interrupting negative thought patterns like toxic shame spirals, supporting healthy self-expression, and using de-escalation techniques. These approaches are reinforced through small group sessions, one-on-one support, and social-emotional learning activities during after-school programming. This model has strengthened the capacity of frontline staff to respond to youth in real time, while maintaining a prevention-focused, relationship-based approach.
Are those plans to expand ease across additional DYCD programs or providers, and what resources would be required to do so?
So funding for ease actually concluded in 2025. DYCD doesn't currently have dedicated resources to support continuation or expansion of the model at scale. That said, again, the pilot demonstrated the value of equipping non-clinical staff with practical, culturally responsive tools to support youth and families. DYCD continues to explore opportunities to build on this approach through training and technical assistance that strengthen social, emotional, and mental health supports across programs. Expansion of EASE or any other similar model will require dedicated funding for staff training, ongoing coaching and technical assistance, as well as coordination to ensure quality implementation across sites. DYCD remains open to working with partners to identify resources like DOHMH that will allow for thoughtful expansion in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have a tight budget, but I'm all an investment, and I say this all the time, investment in young people actually saves us money, so we should be looking at this as a savings. And the point of pilot programs is to see how it works before we roll it out at a bigger number. And so if we've seen that it had positive effects, I'm disappointed that money wasn't already designated to have an expansion, because that's the point of pilots. But at this time, I will pass it over to Chair Krishnan for his line of questioning.
Thank you so much, Chair Stevens, and thank you to DOHMH and DYCD for your testimony today. In February 2024, New York City filed a complaint against a lawsuit against major social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube. And the lawsuit alleges their role in contributing to youth mental health harms. It was based on a theory of it being a public nuisance, among other things. You all are aware of that litigation, right? Public reporting and the city's complaint describe digital environments with continuously refreshing content feeds and extended scrolling experiences. From a public health standpoint, what are youth reporting about time spent and the difficulty disengaging from these types of environments? We've talked about engaging on social media platforms, but what have youth, to your knowledge, how are youth finding it difficult to disengage from these platforms?
So according to so we have, again, referring back to this YRBS survey, we have one for middle school students and one for high school students. According to the middle school YRBS data from 2022, just laying the context out here, 73% of New York City public middle school students use social media several times a day. And for the YRBS in 2023, similar percentage for public high school students, 76% of New York City public high school students use social media several times a day or more. Now, in June of 2023, the health department convened more than 150 participants, and this included government officials, CBOs, advocates, academics, families, and youth, for a forum on New York City's role in the national crisis of social media and youth mental health. And we, again, wanted to hear directly from young people, and at that forum, participants described the difficulties that they were having moderating their own use, and talked about some of the strategies they were using to try to do so. So sometimes it was including, deleting their apps, taking deliberate breaks, other ways that they were using to manage re-engagement. So we know that this is a challenge. And we also know that there's national data on this as well. So the Surgeon General in 2023 issued an advisory, and in that advisory, it was reported that a third or more of girls aged 11 to 15 found their own social media use problematic, and about half of teenagers report that it would be really hard to give up social media. So we know that the disengagement is a real challenge, and this is consistent with neurological research about how these platforms are designed around the infinite scroll and variable reward delivery, which makes disengagement cognitively and emotionally difficult, particularly for adolescents.
And that's a staggering number of students using social media every day, 70+% in middle school. And then, something around there, maybe 76% for high school, which just goes to show, I think, just the scale of the crisis we're facing and why we need to have, as a city, also a far different approach to how we're addressing it. Now, the lawsuit and related reporting also reference patterns where users repeatedly check for new content or interactions. Without addressing any specific platform, what does DOHMH observe regarding repetitive checking behaviors or difficulty resisting re-engagement? Once you've disconnected, difficulty with resisting re-engagement.
Yeah. So, right, the behaviors you're describing are a sign of problematic social media use, and our survey data, the survey that we conducted as the health department, found that parents of a substantial number of children, so about 45%, say that their child used social media too much. And among teens, we're seeing a similar pattern with about 46% of parents of teens reporting the same, that their teens use social media too much. And I know that neither of these constitutes an outright majority, but they show that parents have substantial concerns about children's and teens' social media use. Again, looking at some of the national research on this, the U.S. Surgeon General's advisory also describes how researchers believe that social media exposure can overstimulate the brain's reward center, triggering these pathways that feel I know we are not using the term addiction, but feel similar to those pathways, right, that are leading to this problematic use. And this is something that the health department views this pattern as a public health concern that calls for sort of upstream, intervention. And yes, there's individual behavior change that's needed, but also upstream intervention to help individuals to make those shifts.
And do clinicians report patterns consistent with anticipation or reward seeking? You're already testifying to that a bit, but how is that documented in public health context? As I understand it, it's true, those dopamine spikes too are true for adults, for youth, but it seems like there's a real public health issue there of this sort of, reward seeking or anticipation impact that social media has.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the social media platforms are explicitly designed, around this variable reward schedule. It's the same mechanisms that drive slot machine use, where unpredictable, positive feedback, a surge of likes, viral posts, is more reinforcing than consistent rewards. For adolescents whose reward system are more sensitive and whose inhibitory control systems are still maturing, this design dynamic is particularly powerful. So yes, there is growing clinical and public health recognition that youth social media use often reflects anticipatory and reward-seeking behavioral patterns that are analogous. They're not identical to those seen in substance-related and behavioral addictions. There is some literature that shows preoccupation with checking, compulsive engagement, and emotional reactivity to feedback, such as likes or comments. So these are typically documented as components of broader behavioral or emotional functioning rather than a discrete disorder. So while there is an evolving evidence base, multiple lines of clinical observation, epidemiological data, and emerging research really converge on this point. From a public health perspective, these patterns are operationalized through constructs such as problematic or dysregulated use and are measured via self-reported urges, reinforcement-driven engagement, and loss of control indicators.
Public reporting and the complaint that initiated the lawsuit also raised concerns about exposure to idealized or altered images. What, as we saw in the video during my opening statement before, what trends is DOHMH seeing in body image concerns among adolescents? How frequently do youth report exposure to these types of altered images, and what associations are you seeing with self-esteem and mental health outcomes?
Again, another great question. Body image concerns are an area of growing focus for the department. Members of our Youth Committee on Mental Health have directly raised the effect of social media on body image as a consistently cited concern. The U.S. Surgeon General's 2023 advisory concluded that social media may perpetuate body dissatisfaction, disordered eating behaviors, social comparisons, and low self-esteem, especially among adolescent girls. A synthesis of 20 studies found a significant relationship between social media use and body image concerns and eating disorders, with social comparison as a key contributing factor. A 2024 to 2025 scoping review of the literature identified body dysmorphia and disordered eating as among the most documented mental health outcomes associated with social media, alongside depression and anxiety. The effect is amplified by algorithmically curated feeds that disproportionately surface idealized or altered images. So the Department does not currently have New York-specific prevalence data on body image disorders disaggregated by social media use, but this is an area we are actively considering for future data collection.
The complaint also references adolescent development factors, including impulse control and reward sensitivity. I think you testified this a bit before too, but what does the research say about how adolescent brain development interacts with high-frequency digital engagement?
So this is, again, another one really important scientific questions underlying the entire hearing, and the emerging evidence is pretty sobering, right? Adolescence is a critical period of brain development. We've got the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for impulse control, long-term planning, and decision-making, that does not fully mature until the mid-20s. At the same time, the brain's reward and emotion centers are at peak sensitivity, creating a developmental window of heightened reward-seeking and vulnerability to behavioral reinforcement. Social media platforms are designed to exploit precisely this profile. They deliver variable rewards, likes, comments, notifications, that activate dopamine pathways, create anticipatory loops that are hard to interrupt, and use algorithmic feeds that keep users engaged longer than they intend. There was a landmark 3-year longitudinal study by Massa and colleagues in 2023 that followed 178 6th and 7th graders and found that habitual social media checking led to measurably different brain development. Those who checked most frequently showed increased amygdala reactivity and decreased capacity for self-regulation over time compared to non-habitual use. So the implications are significant. For youth who develop habitual social media use during early adolescence, the neurological effects may compound over time, increasing susceptibility to anxiety, depression, and impulsive behavior. This underscores the public health urgency of early intervention and platform-level design accountability.
And is that the gain that social media companies get from getting kids hooked to the platform, right? Because unlike adults, kids, they don't have bank accounts, they're not consumers, they're not buying products on social media. But, well, consumers in the sense of to some degree they spend their money, but some also our money, that's right, our money. But some also don't have that, but they're also getting hooked on social media too. So what is the benefit that social media companies see besides having kids spend our money? But also, if they can't, they're getting hooked on at an early age. And I wonder why do you think social media companies capitalize on that, or why do they want that to happen?
So again, a great question. I don't know, so I can necessarily speak to why social media companies do what they do. What I can say is, our responsibility here at the department is to really think about what are the interventions that we can put in place to be able to mitigate some of those harms, what we can do to study the impact of some of those harms over time, and really be able to provide evidence-based, scientifically rigorous data to support where providers, family members, caregivers can make decisions around, how their kids should or should not be using social media. I don't know, Marnie, if you want to add anything more to that.
And my final couple questions. So the American Academy of Pediatrics has been a part of coining the term digital stress resulting from the frequent use of technology and the constant access to a wide array of social content, including exposure to violence. How can holding companies accountable create a protective environment for our youth from this type of digital stress?
So again, I'm going to just be able to answer this from the perspective of our role in the public, as a public health department, is to really think about how do we identify what some of those issues and challenges are, how do we create the evidence base to be able to support some of the necessary interventions necessary to be able to, address those and be able to provide as much, again, scientifically rigorous evidence-based information out there for families and providers to do right by kids around these issues.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I'll pass it to Councilmember Joseph, who has a few questions.
Thank you, chairs. I wanted to know what categories of data do you collect on minor use? For example, location, usage, duration, behavioral profiles, and emotional inferences, and is any of that data shared or sold with third parties? And that was a conversation we had about TeenSpace.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're referring specifically to TeenSpace? Oh, yes, I'm happy to speak to that. So the TeenSpace program is, the data are protected. This is of utmost importance to us as the health department. It's of utmost importance to me as a professional and as a parent also of adolescents. And the data are used only for service provision. There is no other allowable use of the data.
Okay, so can you share the collections, like location, usage, behavioral profiles? If you're studying this, are you planning to do a local study? Because I noticed you referenced a lot of national data. Mm-hmm. Will you be using a local data to drive your policy and the work that you're doing?
So we do have local data collection, but also for the TeenSpace program specifically, we are collecting information that will enable us to evaluate the program. As we mentioned earlier, it's a demonstration project, and we are very much looking to see what we can learn from its successes and its challenges through an evaluation.
And how are you engaging parents in this conversation around social media use in homes that are communities, immigrant communities? How is that information traveling to those communities?
On social media use, yeah. The health department always translates anything it puts out into the top languages spoken in New York City, and through our communications and outreach, we often partner with various, different news outlets, et cetera, that we know are commonly read in immigrant communities to get word out. So that is one way that we ensure that, information disseminates throughout the city.
Hold on. And are you also working with school counselors, social workers in schools to know what to look for students who are going through those mental health challenges by the usage? Because we also have some students scroll, some students are also consumers of this social media.
Yeah, so school mental health clinics, right, the clinicians are all, again, as I was speaking earlier about, other sets of clinicians are all licensed clinicians, right, who receive broad training in various needs that young people and adolescents have, which could be depression, anxiety, body image, et cetera, and that is inclusive of those that are related to social media use or due to other factors. So these are things that school-based mental health clinicians are equipped to manage.
Are there also any protocols in place to engage pediatrician, which is usually the first stop for a child, community health workers to identify or refer students who are experiencing social media mental health harm?
I think that is a really good opportunity for us to look at to see how we can do more to engage pediatricians on this issue. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I will pass it back to Councilmember Caban for a second round of questions.
Thank you. I want to focus a bit on just the disparities that were talked about in your testimony, that we talked about in our openings. Research shows that queer youth, Black and Latino youth, and youth with disabilities experience higher rates of cyberbullying and online harassment. What is the administration doing to address those harms?
Yeah, so we know that cyberbullying is absolutely a challenge, so that in 2022, about over a quarter of middle school students reported being cyberbullied, and the middle school students who use social media more than once an hour were more likely to report being cyberbullied. And, you know, it was 37% of those who use social media more than once an hour said that they'd experienced this, versus 19%.
I'm sorry, I just want to interject for a second.
Yes.
I want to focus on just the intersection of the use, the harms, and these particular populations or identities. So LGBTQIA plus youth, Black and Latino youth, youth with disabilities, their rates are higher. And so in light of that, what's the administration doing to address these specific harms, specifically for these young folks that are disproportionately affected?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as the health department, right, what we are trying to do is ensure that mental health resources are available, right, to these communities. And so that, you know, we are looking, for example, through Teen Space to, right, be able to, and other programs that we have, to ensure that we're reaching the communities who are most affected, which is always was always our priority.
Can you give some more specifics, though? You're saying Teen Space and others, and we're doing it. But again, specifically, how are you reaching? What are the strategies being used to specifically reach queer youth, Black and Latino youth, and youth with disabilities?
We are, really trying to market in the communities that we know have that are disproportionately affected, essentially. So, for example, like we are, as I was speaking about with Teen Space, right, where we have like approximately 80% of users identifying as BIPOC, because the marketing and outreach has been very intentionally, right, in communities and schools where we can reach those youth. So it's been a very deliberate, intentional outreach strategy.
Okay, and what I would encourage is just even coming back to us with more information around what's happening outside of Teen Space, or folks that aren't being touched by Teen Space, especially in those particular communities, because this is the first answer you've given that's just a little too vague for me, to be honest. Okay, I'm gonna move on, but I will ask for some follow-up on that front. Immigrant youth and English language learners, they may face unique vulnerabilities online, including exposure to xenophobic content, digital exploitation. What culturally competent and multilingual supports for digital literacy are available?
Sorry, excuse me one moment. So I know that the New York City Public Schools in particular has been a vehicle for reaching youth, and that they've been doing quite a bit in this area. One moment. I can describe some of those for you. So New York City Public Schools, in addition to having school-based mental health clinics, I'm sorry, do you mind I want to make sure I'm answering your question.
Sure, yeah. So, immigrant youth,
yes,
English language learners, there are unique vulnerabilities there, right? The harm there is obviously xenophobic content that they may be exposed to or targeted for, and then digital exploitation because of either immigration status or the fact that English is not their first language. So in light of those things, what culturally competent and multilingual supports for digital literacy are available?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to, I will probably have to defer to New York City Public Schools for details on that. I can certainly speak to some of the work they're doing on digital citizenship to support all of their students, but for more detailed answers, I'd have to defer to our colleagues at the New York City Public Schools about that approach.
Okay. And again, I'd love for you guys to have that communication and circle back with us on that. We did give these questions beforehand, so I would hope for a little bit more information here. Black, Latino, queer youth, other groups often face a documented phenomenon called identity-based stress online, which is repeated exposure to gender-based and racial violence, discrimination, and community trauma through social media feeds. Has DOHMH developed clinical guidance or messaging to address this?
We have not.
Is that something that you are actively exploring at this point, or can you commit to exploring that?
I mean, it's certainly something we'd be happy to look into, yeah.
Okay, great. Moving to some social determinants and compounding risk factors. Food insecurity, housing instability, community violence, they're all known to compound the mental health effects of social media. Does does the admin take an integrated approach to address social media harms in the context of these social determinants? And I think the chair has done a good job of like articulating a really particular example of this, of like youth that are in foster care, for example, or runaway or homeless youth. How is that reflected? Yeah, is there an integrated approach to address those things? And if so, how's that reflected in your research?
So just, I think in general, what I would say is that we are incredibly focused on not just the specifics of mental health and substance use disorders, but all of the social drivers or health-related social needs that impact, not only the emergence of these conditions, but certainly the exacerbation of them. So, core to what we do is really taking into account all of these different factors and aligning them around what or how we're going to be able to develop and deliver the right array of supports and services for individuals, taking into account a very holistic and comprehensive approach to the needs. We know that someone who might be, couch surfing or food insecure is going to have a harder time being able to access services. So a lot of our programs across the department are really aimed at being able to take those things into account, everything from care coordination and appropriate engagement and referral into appropriate services or entitlements or whatever may be needed, to the actual delivery of services and treatments. So it's an integral part of what we do.
Yeah.
Specifically around social media, I don't know how I would disaggregate that, because our focus is always about looking at the individual and their needs holistically.
So let's go deeper on that then. You specifically talked about the couch surfing example. If a youth is experiencing homelessness, it is true, right? They often rely on smartphones and social media as their primary source of social connection. So how do you balance the harm reduction approaches to social media with the reality that the digital connectivity is essential for these youths? Like, what's the approach there? And this has been talked about a lot, right? Like, there are positives, and then we're balancing out the realities of these negatives. Can you give some more particularized testimony on that?
I would have to say that I do think that there is the reality of the importance of actual cell phone usage, and obviously social media being part of that as a lifeline for many of the folks that are connected, right, to the digital world. It's hard for us to be able to influence that, as well as knowing fully well that many folks rely on their telephones to be able to connect to a whole bunch of things. So I don't know that we're necessarily in a position to do anything about the utilization of, let's say, smartphones.
Well, I guess I'm saying, like, does the admin have a strategy where, like, they're specifically saying, well, kids that are in the shelter system or something like that are more vulnerable to this thing, so we are doing outreach in our shelters, or we're doing outreach in this because we know that's how we can find and access these kids?
Well, that's a good question that's a good question for DY City. They run the youth shelters. Those are the ones who do it. And so thinking about what does the guidance looks around in those spaces and how are we getting that information out? And also just thinking about the collaboration, because I think for me, and this is something we could also ask ACS, is like, what does it look like for this vulnerable population? And one of the questions that keeps coming up is, then how do we regulate this for those kids? But my question is, like, so then only a certain set of kids get supports and get what they need, and that doesn't sit well with me. And so I think this is one of those places where I would love for us to all be thinking about how do we ensure that we're protecting all these young people. And so you guys are managing the shelters with homeless runaway youth, and so we'll love to think about, like, how are you guys thinking about this, and how do we move forward in these conversations to think about how do we, like, because that is a hard thing, right? We have young people who drop in the drop-in center and who are in some of these other spaces, but how do we support them in these moments, especially when it is sometimes the only place they have connection?
And Chair Stevens, and you know this, and Chair Caban, so one, we create safe spaces across all of our entire system. So both RHY, whether it's workforce programs, our community development programs, youth services, we train staff to create safe spaces, which includes hiring from the community, ensuring that there's a diverse workforce supporting our young people, and then most importantly, ensuring that the resources that our young people who are the most vulnerable are going to need are out there and available to them. So whether that's a place to go because it's a 24-hour drop-in center, or unfortunately, they need a youth shelter bed, that they are connected to those programs, we're getting the word out, they're receiving those resources, and they're planning for their future. But I do look forward to working with our colleagues at DOHMH and OCMH and the council on what can we do to improve and innovate the work that we're doing across the city.
Yeah, because I think it's this is the moment where we should be thinking about what does that look like, and how do we not have an overreach, but also just still how are we creating and putting pressure to make sure that all these young people are safe, and obviously a safe space is one place, but how do we make a safe space digitally as well? Like that also is important. Do you have more questions?
And how are we identifying sort of what the prime sites for those contacts or should be? And so in that vein, for example, like how many school-based mental health clinicians are trained to screen for and treat social media related harms?
Yeah, I'm not sure that there's specific training on screening for social media based harms for school-based mental health clinicians. Again, I think it is a broader approach that they get in terms of looking for general mental health, concerns and needs and supporting them, when in relation to social media or other.
Is there anything sort of around social media usage that's kind of part of the typical, at least like, start of an intake with a child?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'd be great to know. And another thing I'd like to know is that in relation to that, like, is access equitable across income levels, across districts? Is another data point I think would be helpful to know. I have questions on Intro 660 specifically, so I'm going to hold there and give it back to the chairs for more of their questions.
Okay, I have some questions on the intro as well. Intro 450 requires social media companies to prohibit any person under the age of 17 for using social media for more than 1 hour per day unless waived by a parent or guardian in writing. Are there clinical studies that indicate that limiting social media use to 1 hour per day would have a measurable impact on youth when compared to allowing them to use those sites for unlimited amounts of time?
So we're not aware of a study that specifically speaks to that issue. Yeah.
So we don't know if there's a study. So maybe we should do one. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. What, if any, mental health challenges are more common for youth that are different from those experienced by social media adult use? So is there any difference? Has there been any studies that have shown differences between young people who use social media excessively and like adults, like the effects of those?
Yeah, not that I'm familiar with right now, but again, we'd be happy to look into that. I mean, our survey did ask not only young people about their social media use, but their parents and caregivers about their social media use. And we'd be happy to look at the findings to see what the sort of differences are. Yeah, can get back to you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think especially like for old people like myself, we grew up in a generation, yeah, I said old people, I don't care, I'm okay. I look good. Anyway, but like we grew up in a generation where social media, we were not consumed with it in this way. And so, it's been moving rapidly. And I think that this is a great moment for us to be taking a step back to look at all the studies, because there are things like, prime example, there have been, and Chair Krishna was talking about this, there's been a number of lawsuits around this. And folks are winning because the social media companies are doing these research and they're leading in this space. And so we also need to be doing the same thing and making sure we have the information and the data to back up what we're saying, because they have it, they're just not sharing it with us. And so I think that it's that moment in time that we are there, which brings me to my next piece of legislation. An Intro 451 will require DYCD in consultation with DOHMH to report on the effects that social media has on mental health for youth. The report would include recommendations on appropriate use and age, an hour per day for youth using of social media. We know that children and teens who use social media are more likely to experience higher rates of anxiety and depression, which was the top two things that you said young people are experiencing, and that racial or economic status may shape the ways parents or guardians approach social media in more in their homes. So has DOHMH been able to look at the intersection of racial or economic status on social media use and mental health challenges to identify common patterns?
Yeah, we have seen that there are some discrepancies, by race, and that this is something we are actively looking at, because even in parents' perceptions of how much they think that their youth's use is problematic use or is too much use, it does break down across racial lines, and and we speculate to some degree socioeconomic lines, and this is something that we really want to better understand, particularly because one of the top reasons that youth cite using social media is boredom. And we really want to take a look and ensure that non-online opportunities, right, for healthy recreation, et cetera, other things are more equitably available, and I think it's something we need to look at comprehensively. So yeah, it's absolutely a concern.
Has DOHMH observed other patterns in contributing factors that may worsen the impact of social media use on mental health outcomes?
I think that I would come back to what I was speaking about earlier, that I think that one area for us to better understand is how youth are spending their time online. I think we've spent, we've been looking pretty extensively at how much time, and I think that understanding how they use it and how that correlates with mental health outcomes will help us to provide, sort of better supports to young people about how to use it in more and healthier ways. Yeah.
What is the administration position on Intro 451? Do you foresee any difficulties with the implementation of this bill?
Yeah, for Intro 4...
That's for both of you, because that would be a collaboration between the two. It's pretty much a report.
Hey, Chair Stevens.
Hi, welcome back.
So I'll read our position into the record. So DYCD recognizes that the council's focus on understanding the impact of social media on mental health of young people. It's a critical and evolving issue, and one that providers and staff encounter regularly in their work with youth across the city. We share the goal of ensuring that young people are supported in navigating digital spaces in ways that promote well-being and reduce harm. At the same time, the scope of this legislation requires a level of public health research, longitudinal data collection, and clinical analysis that extends beyond DYCD's current operational structure and capacity.
That's why you don't know what DOHMH.
The type of study and vision, including population-level analysis of mental health impacts, identification of harmful usage patterns, and the development of the age and time use recommendations, would require specialized research design, large-scale data collection, and sustained analytical infrastructure.
You done? Oh, okay.
I'll end
Let's
with
hear you
this.
go. I know what y'all about to say.
You're right. We are well positioned to contribute to our role as a youth development agency, including integrating digital literacy, mental health supports, and conflict navigation strategies into programming, and providing on-the-ground insights from providers and participants. We welcome continued discussions with the council and other partners to further explore this issue and help shape the approach.
So just say yes, support my legislation. Thank you. That's what I heard. No, but I understand that obviously would be challenges, but that's why it wasn't DYCD only. It was like, how do you guys work together to kind of do this? Because DYCD does have access to kids and young people in programs, and you guys have access to the population, RHY young people and all those things that DOHMH typically doesn't have access to, right? We gotta throw ACS in there too, because all y'all I'm gonna add them to the bill. That's my modification, add them to the bill. Because those are the folks that really need to be thinking about this work and how do we protect those young people. So I love that you guys support my bill. I appreciate it, and then we're gonna continue to work together. And I guess DOHMH, you had something else you wanted?
Oh, no, Chair, I think what you're hearing from our position is that we want to make sure we get this right, and as you do too. Yeah. And I think it takes further discussion to figure out what that right approach is.
Absolutely.
So we would really love to have some further discussion with the council about what we are currently doing in terms of our surveillance and data collection activities, and just to work with you on legislation to ensure that what is legislated is actionable, and it's rooted in the science that we're aware of. So we look forward to having more conversations with you about the bill.
Amazing. So you guys love it too. Sounds great. And we're gonna add ACS in there too. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have a big old party. Oh, maybe we should add DOE. All the people, everyone coming to the table so we can talk about it and come up with a real strategy and plan. So Intro 660 will require DYCD in coordination with the Mayor's Office for Neighborhood Safety and Office of Preventing Gun Violence to conduct a study on verbal and physical altercations among young people who are 24 years or younger who receive services from DYCD. Do city agencies and officers currently monitor social media to identify threats or flag potential altercations or disruptions that may arise?
I'm sorry, Chair Stevens. The last part of that question is you're asking,
Do you guys currently monitor social media accounts?
We do not, as an agency. We do not.
Yeah, you do not, but NYPD does.
I am on your account.
Well, thank you. What type of gun violence indicators does the city currently measure, or do you guys measure? Because I know you guys have ONS under you. How do you measure?
So we have ONS, and we have indicators that measures the work that's being done on the ground. So whether it's mediations, de-escalations, the canvassing, of course, we have indicators that measure that. I would hesitate to go too deep into the practices because I never want anyone to misinterpret whether there's surveillance happening. Like in many cases, there are meaningful relationships between the young adults and the mentoring staff that they're connected to, and I never want that to get misinterpreted. So like on specificity around like social media, I would love to have offline conversations around that.
Yes, you should definitely have those offline conversations with the Deputy Speaker, Natasha Williams, so I will let her know to reach out. What specific details do you foresee with the implementation or enforcement of this bill?
So as the bill is written, it will require case-level documentation and analysis of altercations and their underlying causes. This would require significant enhancements to our existing systems, which include DYCD Connect, and uprolls of a technology boost in approximately $5 million on how to do this. Honestly, what we believe that through provider-informed insights, it could be leveraged to identify trends and risk factors at a systems level. An approach that emphasizes prevention, aggregated data, and strengthening youth supports to help inform how we best address this issue while avoiding the need for this sort of interesting case-by-case surveillance or investigation of what young people are doing. I think it, and just as you know, it's like rooted in youth development, it could cross a line and lose the trust of young people.
It could definitely cause a rift in trust in those relationships that young people have.
But overall, we are interested in continuing that discussion with the council.
Chair Kaban, you have questions? Go ahead.
I have a lot of questions on 660.
It's almost 3 o'clock.
Okay, all right. I have a lot of questions on 660. I'm going to be real. I have some serious concerns with the bill. I think just to put the concerns in perspective, there was the 2024 report that DYCD funds well over 1,000 CBOs serving over 400,000 youth. And I mean, we're talking about after school, summer jobs, literacy, immigrant services, support for runaway and homeless youth. And so my concern is just about, are we creating a mass surveillance database and using these programs to do that? And then just to also put into context for my questions, it's not just DYCD programs that this is going to affect, is my understanding. It's also reporting and surveilling requirements puts it on the Office of Neighborhood Safety, which combines the efforts of the Mayor's Action Plan for Neighborhood Safety, otherwise known as MAP, the Office to Prevent Gun Violence, OPGV, and the programs that span our city. So do you know how many programs receive ONS funding and how many young people are served by those programs? Because I just want to get, before I start asking the questions, I want to get a better sense of how many people this could touch? We have a sense of how many under the DYCD umbrella, but not so much about those other areas. And I mean, I don't know if you have access to that information.
Yeah, we do. So as
Okay,
you know,
great,
ONS has been
great.
part of
Even better.
DYCD for the past few
Great.
years, and recently announced that they will be joining the Office of Community Safety.
Got it.
And we're working on that transition and what that means. Of course, DYCD, we have over 1,000 programs that young people are engaged in. With ONS, let's say a couple hundred programs that
Okay.
and opportunities that young people are engaged in. We share, Chair Caban, the same sentiments around ensuring that there's no disruption in the trust amongst young people and the adults that are working with them, mentoring them, supporting them, and getting them on positive tracks. We believe with this bill that a more top-level aggregated approach with best practices can be implemented, not that sort of case-by-case investigative approach that feels like the bill is indicating.
Also, what would this cost? 5
So
million?
about,
Okay, yeah, but
roughly $5 million on this as well.
and does that include, like, does that include sort of the setups for it, or does the infrastructure already exist? Are there things that have to be added that the city already isn't utilizing?
So that would include enhancing our current system, our current infrastructure, and then the additional staffing, analysis, and consulting time that may be needed for this. Again, not a bill or approach that we are in agreement with.
Can you talk more deeply about the privacy concerns, like what notice you'll give to families?
Yeah,
What happens if they don't consent? Like, do you anticipate losing people in programming if they don't consent to this?
yeah, Chair Caban, I don't think the bill, at least as I read it, goes too deep into the release of private information for young people. But what I think our concern is, and what I'm touching on, is the youth development platforms and relationships between our programs, the staff, and young people. And the second that it starts to feel like they're being investigated.
I'm like, you lose them.
Yeah. We lose them immediately, and then they go on social media, and it's endless on what could happen from there.
Now, I think at least the way I read it is that the Intro 660 creates like an authorized sort of surveillance database. So, I mean, do you have a sense of how long data gathered by Intro 660 would be retained, and who controls the data, who determines who gets access to it? What are the limitations for accessing it? And these are questions I think, when we're collecting data, we're always asking, but I think particularly sensitive when it comes to children.
I don't have a sense of Intro 660 and what that would mean in terms of the expectations around data gathering, retention, or usage. Again, I don't think it's a practice that I think we should speak with the council and other partners. I don't think it's a practice that we would go through with a case by case.
Do you know, like, do you think search warrants would be required to obtain the data? Subpoenas being required? Well, just what would you anticipate some of the guardrails being, or where do you see gaps?
I don't want to speculate because we didn't write the bill.
Yeah.
I don't want to speculate on what the intended purpose was because it will change the narrative.
But would you agree that those are questions that you have? I guess I should have framed the questions that way, because you're right. You didn't write the bill, so I shouldn't be framing them as like, do you share these concerns? Like, are they the questions that you have about the legislation?
There's certainly one of many of the questions that we have.
Are you wondering about ICE accessing it at all?
I think all the variables that could release personal information fall into play of questions that we may have. In addition to, I think the foundation of that is the trust and relationships that is the best practice of our programs and how we connect to young adults.
So I'm not going to belabor it because I think the concerns are out there, but I will say this. When I was a public defender, I represented a lot of young people. I was practicing before Raise the Age, and the way that prosecutors used social media use was horrifying, horrifying. And with such regularity and such it was just a common thing that they would even admit to some of these really what I think are nefarious uses around the social media. I had an ADA once tell me, outside of a court space in a social setting, because they thought it was an okay space to talk about it, that they'd pull all kinds of information from a kid's social media who happened to be connected to another kid they were investigating, and then if they found something even questionable in that, the kid A's social media, they used that to threaten them to testify against kid B, even if the stuff wasn't true. And you have these kids terrified about what's gonna happen when they're talking to these folks. And it happened a lot. You would have kids being willing to say, oh yeah, that person's gang affiliated, or oh yeah, this, or oh yeah, that. And I really, really worry about those things. I'll leave it there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that Deputy Speaker, she is literally running a DEM conference right now, but I just want to make sure we level set. She's very open to hearing all concerns and amending it, and she also has similar concerns as well. So I will let her have these offline conversations with folks around it, but she wanted to be clear that she is definitely open to amending and hearing feedback about this bill. And I think DYCD definitely should, I'll make sure that she reaches out to hear those concerns and hear the perspective and some of the issues you foresee doing it, especially because you guys are the people that are making these relationships. And I come from youth development, and I understand our relationships are like collateral. They come and go. Councilmember Shirley Audubon, sorry about that. My fellow Bronx girl, sorry about that. Valerie, I realize this is why you're here, for Intro 801. That's why you're here, got it. Intro 801 will require DYCD to include employment, apprenticeship, and internship, and credit-bearing opportunities for summer youth in the child care and early childhood education sector within summer youth employment. What is the administration's position on this bill?
So, thank you.
I was like, why is she here?
Couldn't have a hearing without me. No, thank you, Chair Stevens. So we are absolutely in agreement that SYEP is the perfect way to introduce young people to careers in early childhood education and youth development. I think you know this better than anybody that this is something SYEP already does really well. Over 32,000 of our SYEP participants last year spent their summer working in the childcare and education settings, and education and childcare are consistently among the top most requested career interests of our participants when we survey them before they're enrolled each summer. That said, we do have some concerns with the bill itself. I think how it's written, we need to keep in mind that it's really important that we remain realistic about what providers, employers, and other partners are able to do within the 6 weeks that SYEP has available.
Well, you know, my goal is to be all year long and have youth employment. And so it actually is on track, what I'm trying to do.
Appreciate very much your advocacy for the program and for Work, Learn, Grow, which is the year-round extension of SYEP. And I think the other thing that is very important to us at DYCD is all of the efforts that we have been making to diversify sectors that participate in SYEP. It's really critical that we don't position SYEP as a pipeline into one specific sector or job. And I'm particularly sensitive about that because SYEP is perceived as a place where young people are only doing daycare jobs, and I've always been an advocate that those are important, amazing experiences for young people, but we also want to continue to diversify the experiences that young people have through the program, and we want to make sure that corporate employers, business, finance, tech, all feel like SYEP is a place for them. So I have a lot of concerns about...
You know, I have ideas. Because some of the problem is, one, is that a lot of our providers need SYEP to run the programs that, like, again, we have 70 providers. all of them also run camps, right? So a lot of times they are going to obviously feed into those programs. And so too, when we're thinking about SYEP in the next RFP, we should be looking at like incentivizing sectors to be providers and not just, you know, the regular providers and saying like, okay, you'll specialize in this and that. So I have lots of ideas on how we can diversify this. You know, I always have ideas. But I think that those are some of the things, because I ran camp. You can't have camp without SYEP. There's no way, just because of the ratios and trying to leave the building. Like, it is a crucial part of the program that keeps getting expanded. And so we have to think about also how do we have the pipeline. But also I want to be clear, like, we don't want it to be like, oh, working with kids only, but SYEP has been a place where I know for a fact I've inspired young people to get into this field because they didn't know about it other than working in youth development and seeing that there was a career trajectory. And also in this field right now, just working in nonprofit general, so it exposes them. So I have lots of ideas. I am open to all of your feedback, but we should definitely talk more about this bill, because this is definitely something I want to see get passed and want to push for, but I want to make sure that we are being realistic, because again, 6 weeks isn't a long enough time, but again, that's not my goal. My goal is youth employment all year long, because it is that important. And because we see such a high rise in unemployment in youth right now, this is again something as a government we should be reacting to. The youth unemployment rate is over 21% for young people, and for Black youth, it's 26%. So it's clearly an issue, and so we have to make sure that we're addressing it. So I'm happy to hear that you're here to support it, and let's also just continue to have conversations and hear about the amendments. What do you foresee as any difficulties with implementation of this bill?
A few things. I definitely think the timeline is a concern. Depending on, again, I think we should talk more about what the actual intent and vision of the bill is. At the same time, I think we have done a really great job building resources into SYEP. We want to make sure, like you said, that if a young person is interested in a career in SYEP, in the early childhood education sector and education and childcare, that they use that first SYEP experience as their next step. So we've done a ton in Work, Learn, and Grow to make sure that as young people move through this vision of a year-long program, they have access to CUNY courses, to credits, and to other opportunities where they are able to actually build upon what they did in SYEP. But that has been possible because of the length of time that Work, Learn, and Grow allows, the amount of engagement that the young people have, the time and the resources that it takes to do the work of getting young people placed in CUNY courses, in jobs that are relevant to the CUNY courses. We've done great work. We've had over 20,000 participants in Work, Learn, Grow over the last 5 years receive a college credit through Work, Learn, and Grow, so we know how to do it. But I think trying to do that within the framework of the 6 weeks of SYEP can be really challenging.
Well, keep building out my argument for a full year extension of programming, because that's what you just did. It helped support what I'm saying. And again, Work, Learn, Grow has its limitations because it's not for everyone, right? And so that's probably my biggest issue. I love Work, Learn, Grow. I think it's a great program. I actually have Work, Learn, Grow folks who are in my office, but it's one of those things where we have seen what that looks like to have a full year program and what actually could be done with that. And so I understand the challenges, but like we'll continue to have these conversations offline, but you actually just was helping build out my argument for full year programming.
You know, we really appreciate you advocating for these programs, because we also think that they are really, really important for young people.
Absolutely. Do you have any questions? Okay. Do you have any more questions?
Nope.
Okay, with that, we have no more questions for this panel. Thank you for your time. I now open the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall always be observed. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recordings or photography is allowed from the witness table. Furthermore, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but they may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant of Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak today at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant of Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topic, the effects of social media and screen time on youth mental health. If you have a written statement or additional testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to our Sergeant at Arms. I will now call our first panel. I did all that turn in to just say I'm calling the first panel. Ariana Cruz, what is Adrian? I don't know what's going on. Adrian Cruz, Matthew Broadwith, Tila Kamaran, and if I mess up your name, please correct it when you start your testimony. Khadijah Kelly. What's that?
Josiah Gilbert.
Josiah Gilbert.
And Cassandra.
I called Cassandra already. You may begin whenever you guys.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Adria Cruz, Deputy Director of Health Programs and Integration at Children's Aid. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on the effects of social media and screen time on youth mental health. Across our programs, we see a steady increase in youth with anxiety, depression, and attention-related challenges. While multiple factors contribute, youth themselves, along with families and frontline staff, consistently point to constant connectivity and unstructured device use as a significant concern. We've noticed impacts on sleep, focus, and peer conflicts that start online and spill into school and community settings. We strongly support continued investment in mental health services. Simultaneously, we must also invest upstream in prevention by addressing contributing factors before they escalate into clinical needs. This includes increasing awareness among youth and caregivers and investing in youth development programs that promote real-world connection. As a provider of 19 after-school programs, we see the value of safe, engaging alternatives to social media. In light of recent Compass Awards, which resulted in many community-based providers losing after-school contracts, we urge the city to reaffirm and provide transparency on its commitment to expanding after-school. We also support reasonable guardrails on device use during the school day and in after-school and summer programming, as harmful technology use extends beyond social media. 73% of teens report exposure to online pornography, nearly half during school hours on school devices. 80% report encountering hate speech monthly, and between 3 to 8% meet criteria for youth gambling disorder with up to 15% at risk. Regarding the bills before you, we support the thoughtful approaches to youth safety and workforce development in Intro 450, 451, and 801. While we appreciate the Council's commitment to youth safety in Intro 660, its implementation remains unclear. We already follow protocols to report and investigate bullying and protect student safety, and imposing additional monitoring risks, undermining trust and program quality by shifting the role of youth providers towards surveillance. Thank you for your leadership and for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Josiah Gilbert. I am the Client and Community Engagement Manager at the Legal Aid Society's Juvenile Rights Practice. We all want young people to be safe and prevent harm, but Intro 660 is not the way to do that. This bill is not just about studying youth altercations. It expands surveillance into young people's online lives and does so in ways that will disproportionately impact Black and Latino youth. And we have seen this before. When surveillance increases, young people don't feel safer, they disengage. They pull back from programs, from services, and from the very adults who are trying to support them. Because trust and surveillance cannot coexist. And what will young people do? They will go private and they will go silent. Not just from systems, but from the people in their lives who could actually help de-escalate conflict before it turns into harm. So instead of preventing harm, this bill risks pushing it further out of reach, out of sight, and away from meaningful intervention. If the goal is truly safety, the answer is not more monitoring, even in the name of a study. It is stronger relationships and real trust with young people, because safety is not created through surveillance. It is created through connection before harm ever occurs. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Talia Kamran, and I'm an attorney with Brooklyn Defender Services. And we appreciate the Council's attention to issues that impact the mental health and well-being of New Yorkers. But at the same time, we're concerned that strategies like social media monitoring and reporting will result in increased contact with the criminal legal system and ultimately disrupt the lives of young people. BDS is a public defense office. We provide criminal, family, and immigration services, and because we're working at the intersection of these systems, we see how surveillance-based approaches to public safety are actually harming the people that they're claiming to try to protect. So in my limited time, I want to express our strong concerns about Introduction 660. First, it carries serious privacy concerns. The bill's operative trigger of verbal or physical altercation is not defined and leaves enormous discretion to program staff to try to interpret what an altercation is, and creates a vagueness problem under the First Amendment. And to the extent that DYCD programs operate in and alongside schools, documenting student conduct and online activity could violate FERPA, and where programs connect young people with mental health services, reporting behavioral information could conflict with HIPAA. So directing program managers to surveil and document participant behavior like this will probably result in actual violations of privacy laws. And on top of this, this kind of surveillance of social media is already happening. NYPD has smart teams, right? They're surveilling at a multi-million-dollar scale youth social media at all times. They also permit officers to create fake profiles to impersonate teenagers and add young people on social media. And they're mapping all of this all of the time. So if prevention isn't happening there, why would we then reduce the quality of services that are supposed to de-escalate conflict and support young people by making those providers putting the barrier of surveillance in front of youth accessing things that will help them succeed? Thank you.
Good afternoon, chairs. My name is Cassandra Kelly, and I'm a policy attorney at the Legal Aid Society. I testified today against Intro 660. As defenders, my colleagues and I come in contact with hundreds of vulnerable young people each and every day. We go beyond just fighting for them in court. We build relationships with the young people we serve and slowly earn their trust. We learn about their interests and the community supports that not only keep them safe, but help them flourish. Based on their needs, we work hard to connect them with programs that create safe spaces and support them. The programs that have the greatest impact on our youth are often funded by DYCD. Intro 660 is a direct attack on the Black and brown youth we represent. It destroys DYCD-funded safe spaces that providers fought hard to create. Social media squabbles turning into some sort of in-person altercation is a universal problem. We are living in a world where wars are declared on social media. The power and impact of social media is felt across all ages, races, and social classes. While we can appreciate wanting to protect our youth from the negative impact of social media, Intro 660 is very far from the answer. It is racist in application as it targets the mostly Black and brown youth that benefit from programs funded by DYCD, calls for their over-surveillance, and destroys their safe havens. It is very disappointing that once again, this city is looking to target, label, and severe our youth instead of providing the actual support and safe spaces they need. I would be remiss if I didn't highlight how far-reaching this bill is. It calls for our children to be targeted, investigated, and surveilled at after-school programs, youth shelters, sports programs, during summer youth employment, at crisis management systems, and so much more. Intro 660 applies to all DYCD providers. This could include our fourth graders getting into a verbal dispute in an after-school program. Today, I urge you to stand up for our youth and oppose Intro 660. So many of us here today have testified before the council urging for the passage of Intro 460 to abolish the gangs database, but what Intro 660 creates is far worse than that rogue database and also more expansive. Intro 660, just 2 seconds. Intro 660 does not protect our children. It harms them. The bill states that it is the duty of the commissioner to gather data, but let's be clear. Not only is this an impossible burden based on the multitude of organizations that receive DYCD and ONS funding, there is no way for the commissioner to obtain this information without the involvement of providers. Intro 660 turns providers into extensions of law enforcement while destroying our children in spaces where they should be free. We urge you to oppose Intro 660.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Matthew Broff, and I serve as a community organizer with Legal Aid Society's Community Justice Unit, working closely with crisis management sites across the 5 boroughs of New York City, including the Bronx, Harlem. These CMS sites include organizations such as Save Our Streets, Guns Down, Life Up, Bronx Against Gun Violence, and broader networks, 32 crisis management sites across citywide, made up of credible messengers, outreach workers, and violence interrupters. I want to speak strong concerns regarding Intro 660 and the proposal for DYCD and ONS to monitor youth social media activity. Across all 5 boroughs, CMS programs build one core foundation: trust. Credible messengers, outreach workers, and violence interrupters are effective because they are embedded in the same communities they serve. They are people who have lived experience, who understand the realities on ground, and who could step into conflict before escalating violence. Young people engage with CMS not because they feel monitored, because they feel heard, supported, and respected. That trust allow outreach workers, violence interrupters to mediate disputes, prevent retaliation, connect young people with real resources at critical moments. My concerns is that introducing social media monitor into this work risks undermining that foundation. Historically, violence prevention through CMS has never relied on monitoring social media, especially youth. That space has largely been associated with law enforcement surveillance, including NYPD monitoring social media, in some cases digital communication investigations. Bringing CMS into the monitoring role risks blurring the line between support and surveillance. It could show shifts how young people perceive credible messengers, outreach workers, and violence interrupters. From trusted community-based support to extensions of enforcement. Once that trust is weakened, it becomes significantly harder to reach young people in the moment. We also share the same goals, reducing violence and protecting young lives, but the most effective CMS work is relationship-based, not surveillance-based. If we want to strengthen outcomes across the city, we should invest in credible messengers, outreach workers, violence interrupters, not introduce systems that may unintentionally weaken the trust and makes this work successful. Thank you so much for your consideration and your time.
Thank you.
No, just thank you very much for your testimony, and I obviously share a lot of the concerns that you have brought here today.
No, and you have a question? Yeah, same, and look forward to the continuous conversations. And again, I think for me specifically, hearings are a place where we want to hear concerns and want to hear these things so that they could be addressed. So thank you. So in addition to talking to me, please make sure you reach out to the bill sponsor as well so she can hear those concerns as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next panel, Cherokee Dickens, Dora Rachin, Karen Rogel, Melissa Hunt, and Paula Migas.
There we go. Peace, blessings, and community. Good afternoon. Chair, and members of the council. My name is Cherokee. I'm the executive director of We the People, For the People, By the People, alongside with House of Skills Barbershop and Lucian Dojo. We created the Spread Love, a youth-led intergenerational anti-bullying initiative rooted in restorative justice and healing. We are here to talk about mental health and substance abuse, but we cannot have that conversation without addressing a root cause: bullying. Bullying is often dismissed as kids being kids, but for many young people, it is their first experience with trauma. In New York City, nearly 1 in 3 middle school students report being bullied. Those youth are significantly more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and turn to substance abuse. This is not a coincidence. It's a pipeline. Bullying leads to isolation. Isolation leads to untreated mental health challenges, and too often that leads to substance abuse. Through Spread Love, we work with elementary school youth across Brooklyn, creating safe spaces where they can express themselves, build confidence, and resolve conflict without harm. We focus on prevention, not crisis response, and that brings me to Intro 660. While we understand its intent, we do not support this bill as written. Focusing on monitoring young people rather than addressing root causes risks damaging trust and increasing isolation. Instead, we urge the council to invest in community-based solutions, funding trusted organizations, expanding restorative justice, and supporting youth-led prevention programs. Because we already know where the problem begins. The question is, we are willing to invest in, what are we willing to do to invest in this work? If we wait until harm is documented, we are already too late. We must start earlier. We must start with our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
I left my glasses at home. Ooh.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity of testifying today on Intro 801 and for your leadership in strengthening New York City's early childhood workforce. My name is Karen Rogel, and I am the Director of Strategic Initiatives at Literacy Inc., Link. And I also coordinate City's First Readers, which is the City Council's early literacy initiative. We strongly support Introduction 801, particularly its inclusion of employment, apprenticeships, internships, and credit-bearing opportunities in childcare and early childhood education through the Summer Youth Employment Program. But I want to be clear that training in early literacy must be a central component of these opportunities, not an afterthought. This is a child's first step in their educational journey. What happens in the first 5 years of a life lays the foundation for everything that follows. Decades of research show that early literacy development, beginning at birth, is one of the strongest predictors of later academic success. Early literacy is not just about books or learning letters. It is about language-rich interactions, responsive caregiving, and the back-and-forth engagement that builds brain architecture. These are skills that can be and must be taught to adults working with young children. As Introduction 801 creates new entry points into the early childhood workforce, it also creates powerful opportunity to ensure that every new provider understands how to support early language and literacy development from day one. Without that training, we risk expanding access to care without expanding quality. We encourage the council to ensure that these apprenticeships and internship experiences include structure, evidence-based training in early literacy and child development. Participants should leave not only with work experience, but with practical tools: how to engage children in conversation, how to support vocabulary growth, how to create nurturing and language-rich environments. This is especially important because many of the SYEP participants will come from the very communities where children face the greatest barriers to reading success. By equipping these young people with early literacy knowledge, we are not only building a workforce, we are building community capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our chairs and the committee for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Melissa Hunt. I'm a licensed social worker and the social worker manager at I Have a Dream Foundation. I Have a Dream builds cohorts of dreamer scholars from under-resourced communities and provide a holistic continuum of after-school and summer programming and services for young people from kindergarten all the way through college with guaranteed post-secondary scholarship support. We currently operate 2 program sites in New York City, serving 220 Dreamer scholars ages 5 to 23. Each of our young persons' journey stretches over more than a decade of wrap-around programming from kindergarten through their first child. At the I Have a Dream Foundation, we run a digital citizenship class that specially helps our young scholars navigate online spaces safely, keep information private online, and understand the role of social media in friendships. This program is reinforced by weekly anti-bullying group sessions within our social emotional support framework, part of our Overcoming Obstacles curriculum rooted in the evidence-based approach utilizing our CASEL Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, which we adapt as our scholars progress through grade levels to ensure age-appropriate guidance. They learn the importance of being a good friend, empathy, and how to report bullying and standing up for what's right, all of which are rooted in CASEL's 5 competencies of self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making, and self-management. Building on this foundation, we recently integrated monthly parent workshops on social media safety to bridge the gap between home and digital life. Due to our long-term approach here at I Have a Dream Foundation, these skills are reinforced consistently through high school and beyond. I want to thank the Council for convening today's hearing and exploring policy solutions to ensure that our young people use social media responsibly so that digital literacy can be served as a tool for success for our young people and not for setbacks, and to urge the Council to continue to invest in community-based programming that reinforces these lessons to our young people and their parents. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's right. Good afternoon, Chair Stevens and the members of this committee. My name is Paula Magnus. I'm the president of Northside Center for Child Development, founded in Harlem. We serve over 5,500 children and their families through therapeutic education programs and Head Start programs across Harlem, the Bronx, and Brooklyn. We have clinicians in 23 public middle and high schools, and we have over 80 years of experience in children mental health clinics and how it intersects with education in the minority community. So our clinicians and teachers are on the front lines of the crisis. They see children who cannot read a face or resolve a conflict because screens have replaced real-world practice. They see 4th and 5th graders with explicit content on their phones, and they see something particularly alarming. When phones are taken away, the children become severely dysregulated. This is not a bad mood, this is withdrawal. These platforms, as you've heard with all the facts and figures, is engineered to be addictive, and that engineering keeps improving every year. Each generation is harder to put down that instrument. Jonathan Hurt's study, it showed how it increases anxiety and depression beginning from 2012. And as you can see from experienced individuals in the field, they confirm it. So PASS, Intro 450 and Intro 451, invest in the mental health services children already need. The legislation before you is the beginning of a serious response, and these children deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Thank you. No questions for this panel. Thank you for your time. Deron Rosenberg, Alexa Alliger, Walter Elder, Susan Duke, and Trey Lee. Is Dara Rockland here? Oh, you can come to this panel.
Should I say?
Hello. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Suzanne Duke. I'm a lieutenant with the BHERT, the Mental Health Response Unit. And EMTs in the service are all often very young. They're in their 20s. It's often the first job they have. But back to the behavioral health, behavioral addictions, like social media. What helps is therapeutic alliance, honest conversations to meet the young people where they're at. Mental health support readiness is not always guaranteed. This is an impasse we face as mental health providers. We at BHERT are able to work in a team. We work so well because we let the client decide who to connect with, the clinician, the EMT, or collaterals, maybe the school safety officer, the para, or the teacher. And trust is only built one model at a time. You have to be authentic, consistent, non-judgmental, useful, and transparent. Young people often have a low mental health literacy for care navigation, so there is a need for prevention initiatives and mental health advocacy. There is a high comorbidity rates. There's high comorbidity rates without integration, and which brings the need for a complex care system, such as no wrong door places where you go in not really knowing what services you need, but getting the services you need through somebody who manages that for you. Follow-ups are important after crisis care or hospitalizations to support, understand, and equip with, coping and so on. So it would be nice if all our New York City EMTs would have that. A preventive care, clinicians as peers in teams, complex care system, and follow-ups. Thank you.
Good day, members of the council. My name is paramedic Walter Adler. I'm a hospital-based 911 paramedic. I'm one of the EMS PAC organizers. The epidemic of mental health is affecting us in the youth in an extreme way because of the amplification of what they can be exposed to on the phone. But it is absolutely the civilians as well, all day and all night plugged in to watching a life that we would like to be leading, friends that we would like to be seeing, and comparing ourselves against artificial things, all with the purposes of trying to sell us something. In the end, what affects the EMS force, what affects civilians, what affects the youth is an overlap. And in relation to today's topic, I would like to say on behalf of EMS PAC, we are very much in favor of the regulation of social media for both the youth and for adults. Where the youth and where civilians depart from my specific workforce is this, that when the doom scrolling stops, of the tragic and wonderful and beautiful and dark things that we are connected to through these phones, my workforce has to then put down the phone and drive like crazy across the city to mop up the effects of the mental health. And so we see it as interconnected. Whether my workforce, whether any other workforce, whether youth in particular are affected by the virus of social media being rampant in our society, I think that is almost beyond debate. But what I bring as a specific message to the council on behalf of my organization is, one, the youth are very vulnerable because for the first time in our human history, these devices are letting them be plugged in 24/7. Adult civilian employees of all trades are vulnerable because this is the main way we can have a life on top of the grueling way we work 60, 70 hours to survive in our city. And as an EMS workforce, when I drop the phone and have to drive through traffic to try to bring someone back from the dead, or one of my colleagues to deliver a baby, or someone to go to a youth who is losing their mind because of what they are seeing on the phone, we say all of this needs our attention. We encourage the council to support the mental health needs of all New Yorkers and to limit what social media can do as a nothing less than an unregulated virus rampant in our society.
Good evening, council members. My name is Troy Lee. I'm a New York City paramedic. I'm also a high school track coach, and I listened to the first panel speak for an hour about the statistics they put together, the stats and everything. I can tell you what I've seen firsthand. I have 25 athletes on my team. I have 7 that have mental health issues. I have 4 that are cutting. I have 3 who have thought about suicide. I have 1 in February who actually attempted suicide. This is more than a pandemic. There is no recourse for them. I'm sitting in a school as coaches, we're trying to find a recourse. We have none. You're in the middle, either you tell the school what's going on and lose the confidence of your athlete. As I talk to the parents and they say they don't want the school to know, so now you sit right in the middle. We've been trying to find different organizations that can help them, and we haven't been able to. I find last week, one of my kids was cutting from their wrist all the way up to their elbow. I don't think people understand what's going on at this point. I believe that the first panel that was up here talking is completely not on ball of what's happening. They're moving at such a slow pace and a slow percentage that they're working with. I'm not the only coach in the city that's having this problem. And I'm talking about a very small window. As a New York City paramedic, I 6 weeks ago responded to a house. An 11-year-old had an anxiety attack. The 11-year-old was on anxiety medication. The mother was concerned that since she spoke Spanish, the pediatrician wasn't really listening to her. When I asked them, what's the follow-up steps as far as counseling and seeing, there's none. All that happened was the pediatrician threw this 11-year-old on medication. This is crazy. And I find that first panel that was sitting up here is very much behind the 8 ball. They are not where they need to be. Every high school in New York City is probably having this problem. All I look for is maybe if they set up a desk in a high school, give these kids a pamphlet where they can call. They don't want to go into the counselor's office in the school because they're afraid of people seeing them, walk in or walk out. And that's the answers that my kids are telling me. We need some kind of help, and we're not getting it. Thank you.
Thank you, council members, for allowing CFR to speak. My name is Davine Roseborough. I am a parent advocate with the Center for Family Representation. As a parent advocate and a single mother of 2 grown men, I have personally seen how social media and screen time can significantly affect children. Excessive screen time and social media consumption can often replace face-to-face interactions, reducing opportunities for children to develop emotional regulation and social skills. This can lead to low self-esteem, social anxiety, increased aggression, and difficulty reading nonverbal cues such as body language, as we have heard today. Electronics can also memorize the amount of time a child spends interacting with family members and others, which can lead to emotional distress can result in behavioral challenges within the home. At this time, we must recognize the reality that many families face. As screen time plays a role in keeping children entertained and occupied while parents address their various responsibilities, it is not realistic to remove these devices from families' daily lives entirely. Let's not forget that screen time is no longer strictly for gaming and social media, as many, if not all children receive homework to be done on electronic devices. I have worked with clients that face a range of challenges that are often misunderstood or overlooked. Some parents struggle with digital illiteracy, including navigating school technology platforms, assisting children with online assignments, or setting up email accounts to receive important school communications, all skills that could help parents better understand how their child navigates the digital world. The concerns around social media usage are driving an important conversation, and we must recognize that no one is more concerned about this than our parents. Accordingly, we must ensure that parents are included in the conversation about addressing social media and screen times. The focus should be on meaningful solutions such as supporting families, such as computer literacy programs, community centers, and resource activities that create safe spaces for our families. By helping families educate themselves and build digital illiteracy, we can better educate them to the potential harms of social media and screen time details. We can ensure that parents and children can work together to navigate an increasingly digital world. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Council. My name is Elena Aguilar. I'm a senior social worker with Center for Family Representation in the Youth Defense Practice. We work with young people whose lives are shaped not only by their neighborhoods, but by what happens on their screens. Social media is not inherently harmful. At its best, it fosters connection and community, especially for young people who feel unseen. But for many adolescents we serve, it amplifies risk. Conflict no longer ends at school, threats spread online, fights are shared, and tensions follow youth home with no off switch, fueling anxiety and hypervigilance. Online disputes increasingly spill into the real-world harm, and dangerous trends such as subway surfing are performed for views. For adolescents, the pool of visibility can outweigh their ability to assess danger, sometimes with fatal consequences. Adolescence is a critical stage of development where emotional and reward systems are highly active, while impulse control is still maturing. Social media intensifies that imbalance, reinforcing impulse behavior and heightening emotional reactivity, especially for youth impacted by trauma. We see the results every day: rising anxiety, escalating conflict, physical harm, and deeper involvement in the legal systems. Social media is not the sole cause, but it is a powerful accelerator of the risk and the inequities that surround them. So what do young people need? While we understand the instinct and desire to better understand the issue and gather more information, increased reporting and surveillance is not the solution. What young people need the most are constructive, engaging, and sustainable alternatives to social media, as well as mental health support to address social media's impact on their lives. This requires investment in culturally competent mental health care, community-based programs, well-funded schools, and safe spaces, both online and offline. While well-meaning, Intro 660 takes a punitive surveillance-focused approach that risks doing more harm than good. Expanding reporting and monitoring of young people's online activity would only increase disproportionate surveillance without addressing the root cause of the conflict. It will likely have a cooling effect, discouraging youth from seeking help or expressing themselves openly. Rather than emphasizing surveillance, reporting, and monitoring that has long disproportionately affected youth, policy solutions should focus on investment in prevention, support, and opportunity. Because right now, the systems meant to protect them aren't keeping pace with the world they're growing up in, and our young people are paying the price.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Dana Racklin, and I'm the co-founder of We Build the Block. For something to be called good, it must cause good. Intro 660 will cause very predictable outcomes, none of which are good. Those outcomes are all the same issues that the legislation is supposedly solving for. We heard social media causes depression, anxiety, addiction, and sleep deprivation. Those are all the same symptoms exhibited by youth being gang policed. Yet Intro 660 aims to systemically expand gang policing policies within the same organizations trying to stop it. As this esteemed body knows, the highest risk youth in this city are already being surveilled and monitored. This leads me to believe that Intro 660 is an admission by this body that the NYPD, who touts its online and tech advancements and have entire units within the Real-Time Crime Center dedicated to monitoring social media activity, is wholly ineffective in nurturing safe communities and stopping dangerous behaviors. We also know that the NYPD has an abundance of what is being asked for by providers to share for their study. Is this an admission that the NYPD does not share meaningful and timely information and data with the other parts of government that can allow our city to develop safety strategies that actually work? If a city agency is unwilling to share data in service to safety, that raises questions about priorities and accountability that truly deserves this body's attention. Perhaps it is more politically expedient or politically safer to put youth providers who are already underpaid, unprotected, and overworked in a surveillance posture with their participants, undermining their approach, integrity, and relationships, rather than address real deficits in government that lead to safety and stability. I hear the concerns raised about social media, including how it is used by both governments and private companies. Those concerns are valid. But with Intro 660, we must be clear. Are we trying to regulate platforms and markets, or are we expanding surveillance of young people and exacerbating the symptoms of social media by compounding anxiety and depression with surveillance by young people they trust and rely on? Because those are not the same thing. Today it was said young people have unlimited access to social media. That is true. But it is equally true that many young people, especially served by DYCD providers, lack the access to stable housing, high-quality schools, healthcare, mental health support, nutritious and affordable food, employment, and meaningful pro-social activities. If we are serious about youth safety, those are the conditions we must address and are within our power to address. I urge this body to consider the consequences of delaying the abolishment of the gang database while simultaneously building a new one. Safety is not created through surveillance. It is built through stability, trust, and investment. Thank you.
Thank you to this panel.
And I just want to say a quick thank you in particular to the first responders on the panel. Thank you for your work.
And your perspective, which was different. Thank you so much. Wait, hold on. That concludes the in-person portion of the public testimony. We now will move to remote testimony. If you're testifying remotely, please listen for your name to be called. Once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you. You may then start your testimony once the Sergeant at Arms sets the clock and cues you to begin. You may begin once you are unmuted by the Sergeant of Arms and cues you. Thank you.
First, we'll have Annie Minguez.
You may begin.
I repeat, we're calling Annie Minguez.
You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Joseph and members of the committee. My name is Annie Minguez Garcia, and I am testifying today to share our concerns about Intro 660, which would require DYCD-funded programs to report on incidents of social media. As a provider of after-school community Chair Stevens, thank you. As a provider of the crisis management system, as a provider of after school, as a provider of Cornerstone and Beacons, and also other programs within DYCD's portfolio, our staff are not trained to surveil young people on social media. This would require us to build out additional staff to do this, but we would have major concerns to be able to do this and to be reporting on it, because our job is to ensure that young people are in a safe, encouraging environment and that we build relationships with them. And this, to me, goes counter to that. If we're going to be reporting, we should be considering ways in which we could be educating young people about the use of social media and also researching how it's impacting their mental health, which I know are other bills that were introduced. Thank you so much for allowing me to testify.
Next, we'll be calling Sitan Sacco.
You may begin.
Seeing no one online, we now call Evelyn Nederman.
You may begin.
The following witness has already signed up to testify remotely. If anyone else online is here, please raise your hand. Use the hand raise function. Okay, great. If there's anyone present in the room who has not had the opportunity to testify but wish to do so, please raise your hand. Seeing no one else who wishes to testify, this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you. And
just like that.